What's up, Sifters? Welcome to GameFace, episode 365 on Sifted Games at Sifted.net. I'm Shane Satterfield, your host for the next couple hours of awesome video game discussion. And alongside me to do that are my two co-hosts, Matt and Luna Kyle. What's up, Matt?
Hey.
Luna's like,
you just sat right here.
Grimlock gone, Luna back.
Mm-hmm.
You guys missed it. Last week we had Matt's awesome new Grimlock toy on set, and Luna was scared of it and never showed up.
Luna doesn't like the servos in that thing.
I thought that was pretty funny, that she was just like, nope, I'm not hanging out with the weird robot thingy.
She doesn't like certain noises.
Yeah.
Even from games, sometimes something will happen and she'll run out of the room.
Oh, really?
I've never had a cat react to noise from
the TV. My cats didn't even know the TV existed. It was like it wasn't even there.
Mine have. Like Rampage would. I remember back when the Winter Olympics were on in the old apartment, she got real invested in skiing because she would watch the dark skiing figure go across the white background, and she would just sit there like.
Yeah.
And that actually happened once. I caught her. I was playing No Man's Sky, and I was just sitting in the part, like landed on a planet in the ship, just sitting in the ship, and I was doing something else because I'll leave my character just sitting in the ship while I do other stuff because he's safe in there. And there were creatures on the planet. They were walking back and forth in front of the ship, and I looked down, and she's looking at, and she's watching the creatures walk back and forth on the screen.
Wow.
Which is what I thought was very interesting, because some of the other cats couldn't see anything on it. I could clearly tell nothing on the screen was
like it didn't register,
registering for them.
Yeah.
But no, Rampage was watching and then like they'd leave the screen, and she'd like look behind the TV, and like
I've seen YouTube videos of cats that absolutely recognize the TV and like freak out over it. My cats have just acted like it wasn't even there. It's bizarre.
I've seen a video of there's a cat that just watches cartoons all day and yells at its owner until she puts them on.
That's funny. Every cat's different. Hope you guys are doing good. Hope you guys have had a good week. Once again, I have played a ton of video games for today's episode. We have 5 different games we're going to talk about on today's show, so it is loaded to the gills. Next week's going to be the same, just rolling straight out of October into November. We are Sifted. This is GameFace. If you want to support us, head to patreon.com/sifted and give us a pledge if you can. We'd really appreciate it.
We did start an hour early, not a minute early, if you're not in daylight savings.
Yeah, so does Europe not do daylight savings?
Most places don't do daylight savings.
It's just us, our weird thing that we do.
Some places do. I don't remember which ones do and don't.
Yeah.
But surely there's some places that are like, wait, why are they going at noon?
Yeah.
Or whatever your time is.
Well, I wish I had gotten
up. Hawaii and Arizona.
Yeah. I wish I had gotten up an hour earlier, because today was an insane day. So my Tuesday mornings, as you might imagine, they're mapped out. Every minute is mapped out to get everything done just in time to get here to do the show. And today, my wife went down to get into her car, and all of the antifreeze had drained out of her car. And so that just threw everything into chaos. All the time that I usually have to get ready for the show was gone. I had to take care of my wife, make sure my wife was able to get to work and make a plan to get her back from work later, get her car to the garage. It's just been one of those days. And then I come in here, and I'm loading up all the media on the TriCaster, and I open up the folder with all our lower thirds for the show, Matt, and when I first looked, there's only 4 images in the folder. I'm like, that's wrong. There should be 5. And as I'm looking at the folder, 2 more of the images disappear out of the folder. I have never seen that happen in my entire life working on Windows PCs. And I tried everything. I restarted it, unplugged the drive, unplugged it back in. Those images are gone. So we only have lower thirds for the first 2 topics of today's show. I'll have to insert the other lower thirds in post-production after the show is over this evening. So anyway, it's already been a nutty day, and here we are for an awesome episode of GameFace, as I said, with 5 games loaded in. Anything interesting happen to you this week, Matt?
No, I mean, the internet died because the house router, the power supply failed. So I had to get a new adapter for that.
That's weird.
But yeah, a day with no internet. Interesting.
That is. That'll change your life.
I mean,
how did that go?
I set my phone up as a hotspot for my laptop. So
so you still had kind of internet.
All the consoles and everything yelling at me. It's like, there's no connection. What do we do? And I'm just like, I don't know. I just play a fucking game anyway.
Yeah.
But Yeah.
Well, a lot of games you can't even play with them without the internet. Like, they need that handshake of, like, you're connected to the network. Like,
I don't have any of those. But
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, you don't play games as a service anymore.
No,
or ever, really.
No, not. I'm trying to remember the last one of those I played voluntarily was. Might have been Avengers.
Avengers. There was that third-person shooter that you played, right? From Square Enix. That was actually a couple years ago now, though. Yeah. It has been a while.
Yeah. I mean, Exoprimal, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not like I did that. I didn't do that on purpose.
Right.
You know? Something I wanted to play goes way back.
Yeah. Let's see.
Diablo 4. Yeah, Toast 9 is right. Diablo 4 is the last.
Oh, that's right. I guess that would be considered a game as a service. Yeah.
You have to be online.
Yeah. Always online. It's something that we didn't have to deal with back in the early aughts. Let's check in on you guys. See what
Europe did the daylight savings thing 2 weeks ago, they say, which is always surprising me a little bit because that daylight savings is so stupid. It seems like something only Americans would do. Mm-hmm. But
other people are just as dumb as us, apparently.
Just on that, yeah. They won't use miles, but they will still do this stupid time change.
Yeah. For some reason, I'm not getting our chat to come through the TriCaster today. I'm not sure why. It's a little weird. Let me exit out of it and try to reopen it again and see if it works second time. Just 1 second, people. Sorry about that. Want to make sure we can get you guys into the show. There you are. I don't know what's going on with that. Little finicky. This stuff all runs through networking, which is a little... It's like new technology, so it doesn't always work the way it's supposed to. But now you guys are here. Let's take a look at what you guys are saying on this awesome Tuesday morning. J. Reed Vic 7 says, even a lot of the single-player experiences can get wonky without an internet connection, like Hitman, Mortal Kombat, etc. Yeah, it's true. Yep, there's no doubt about it. U.S. was set to remove daylight savings time in 2027, last I heard, from Caleb Faruqi.
We voted for that, but I don't. The argument continues to go back and forth about which time to stay with. Mm-hmm. There's like the argument that's like if you go, most people wanted to stay with like the summer hours so that it doesn't get dark as early in the winter. But then there's people that's like, well, if you're in Montana, then that means in December the sun doesn't rise until 9 in the morning. Mm-hmm. Oh, well.
Yeah. Like, I mean, that is a little weird, but...
Sure, it's weird, but it's also like you go far enough up, you go far enough north or far enough south, that's what happened,
Yeah.
Like, Sweden deals with it even worse.
Yeah.
It's just, okay, and they're like, oh, it's dangerous.
Iceland.
It's dangerous to drive home from work in the dark.
Yeah.
Or like, children...
Pick your poison, basically.
Yeah. Children have to go to school in the dark. Okay, like...
Yeah, I had to.
Yeah,
when I was growing up, I went to school in the dark. When I got up in the morning and was waiting for the bus... It was dark out.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but school tends to start at like 7:45, and it's dark no matter what. Like I had to ride my bike in the fucking pitch blackness to middle school in the
uphill both ways, right?
Well, with like all this. I mean, I lived in San Francisco. It was still cold enough to have to wear gloves, or you'd get frostbite.
In San Francisco, you could actually do uphill both ways.
You could if you took the right streets. Yeah.
All right, let's check back in on you guys here and see what's up. Faradol says, who even lives in Montana? The sheep will be fine. Eth Demon, what do you think of what's going on with the Escapist? Well, I guess you could have said that for Q&A at the end, but we'll let it slide. I mean, what? So Yahtzee and one other guy are starting a new website?
A couple of them left. A bunch of other people got fired. Like they apparently they're doing some kind of pivot in terms of direction, but it's like most people were like, the Escapist still exists? Like, the only thing they had was zero punctuation.
Yeah.
And that's, Yahtzee doesn't own zero punctuation. They do. But it's not like you can do it without him.
But he can't do it anymore. I'll have to rename it.
You have to rename it. He still does his shtick. But it's not, but it's not like Escapist can just replace him.
No, I mean, they'll just kill the show.
Yeah.
I mean, are they even sticking around, Escapist?
They seem to be.
They are.
In some form.
Oh,
and then there was another show, I guess it was gaining a little traction, called Cold Take. But I don't know what that is.
Some of their content lately, we've curated more of it lately. I feel like their content actually had kind of turned a corner and was better.
Did. They had for the last few years, they had a different team that really sort of turned a corner from like, the old team was sort of terrible, both in terms of quality and in terms of like supporting Gamergate, which Yahtzee seemed to more or less stay out of. But like, I mean, The Escapist has always been a weird...
It's been a little bit of a weird
I've never quite understood what it is.
Yeah, so the other thing,
or
too,
why.
is so Yahtzee and one of the guys from there is starting a new thing. And then also a bunch of ex-editors from Kotaku are launching a paid gaming website.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, you might want to have given me a call first before you decided to go that route, but hey. Good luck. That's all I can say.
Maybe talk to Brandon Jones about that too.
Right.
It's like it doesn't go well over time.
Yeah, it's hard. It really is hard. And if you're just creating content on Patreon, if you quit, you have nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing to sell.
Well, also it's like if you, I don't know, like there's Easy Allies made more sense, I guess, in terms of where they were coming from and the fan base they had. It's like I don't feel like Kotaku has enough people behind it in terms of like loyal fan base to really make
They're hoping that
leap.
their fans on Kotaku leave.
Right, but it's like who's
go to them.
a Kotaku fan anymore?
Yeah.
But every time you mention Kotaku, people just complain about it.
And Polygon, for whatever reason, people seem to target both those outlets for whatever reason.
Yeah, well, some of it's just like, Polygon's always sort of had a pretentious vibe to it that people never liked, which I get. Like, they've gotten better, but remember early on some of that Polygon stuff was just insufferable.
Here's what's crazy about Polygon. They still have no video content.
Yeah.
What the F?
They're still here.
That is so crazy that they have no video content. In 2023, all their content is written content.
Lean organization.
Really bizarre. But those people who are still there, even in the lean, they should be making video. That's how you make money. Anyway.
Or it's how you expand production budgets and fold.
Yeah.
So.
Well, if you know what you're doing, hopefully you don't fold. But
Yeah, but no one. I mean, imagine the PR push and the brand reinvention you'd have to do to make people aware that there's video on Polygon now.
yeah, so it's been so long.
Yeah, not having video is one of their only remaining
unique
hallmarks.
selling propositions. It's funny. Let's check back in with you guys before we get going into the housekeeping. Caleb Faruqi, thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome.
Yeah, they did.
Pain of Demise, thank you. J. Reed Vic 7, thank you.
MK Ness knows that they did have Brian David Gilbert for a while.
Oh, okay. That's right. He was doing his little commentary videos.
Yeah.
And what happened to him? He just disappeared.
He went and did his own thing, which you don't see him much anymore.
Yeah. Gohan Rage, thank you for Twitch Prime as
Honestly,
well.
that dude is talented and skilled enough that he can do whatever the hell he wants. And maybe he doesn't want to do public-facing stuff.
Or maybe he just wants to get out of games because he can see, if he is smart, he can see the writing on the wall.
Well, he's good enough to do actual normal comedy.
Right.
Or, I mean, I think live stage is his real passion.
I mean, he's talented. He can do a bunch of stuff. Yeah. So anyway, I think that's it from you guys in our chat so far. I'm sure as we get going, maybe there's one more. No, that was the last one about the Escapist, I think. Mellow Pintor, thank you for gifting a Tier 1 sub. That's awesome. Commander Fett, thank you for Twitch Prime. What else we got? Kabiram Ron. I had a question. I'm a longtime YouTube member. Okay. Ask away. Justin Horman, thank you for subscribing at Tier 2. That's awesome. We generally take questions at the end of the show, but since you are a subscriber on YouTube, if you can type it in right now, real quick, he did.
It's right there above Justin Horman's thing.
Okay, since NVIDIA DLSS and ray tracing tech is proven superior to the AMD FSR tech in current consoles, would you have been okay with having a current-gen console which is more powerful and efficient and giving up backwards compatibility? Yes. I don't care about backwards compatibility. You do, but I don't. I never use it. So I I absolutely would. What about you, Matt?
100% you have to have backwards compatibility. You have to be able to bring your library forward with you now. That's it.
I can understand that. I'm just saying for me personally, I don't use it. So if I could trade that in, I know you do, but if I could trade that in for a more powerful console, I would.
Well, here's the thing. That's a nonsensical trade-off. Like, there's no reason you'd have to trade those two things for each other.
Well, you still have to do all the work on the games to make sure that they run on the old games.
You really don't. You just have to have the same hardware config, which is what they did. Like
now. But there was a lot of work that had to be done before.
But not for this generation. When you're talking about ray tracing.
Yeah, well, I guess Xbox One X, you're right, they did all the work there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And PlayStation 5 is just an expansion of PlayStation. It's all. You don't have to trade those two.
Well, we still don't have PS3 games.
Right, but there was no They didn't decide to not put more robust hardware in the PS5 because they had to run PS4 games on it. That doesn't make sense as a trade-off.
I think he's talking about the price of parts and.
But again, backwards compatibility doesn't affect the price of anything. It's not a sensible trade-off. Mm-hmm. So there's no reason to have to trade one for the other. Would I prefer that the consoles are a little more powerful? Yes, but then they would have cost $600.
Yeah,
that's the trade-off.
That is
not backwards compatibility. That means nothing.
Caleb Faruqi says, my question is in reference to last week's episode. Oh, here's his question. If you consider MGS, is backwards compatibility worthwhile long term? I don't know. Yeah, I think it is.
I mean, you wouldn't have to pay $60 to play MGS 3 on a PS5.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not like it'll look much better or worse.
Yeah.
The problem with the Metal Gear games are an interesting problem because the early, especially 2, used functionality in the PS2 controller that doesn't exist anymore.
Yep.
Like they never quite figured out a good way because very subtle things, but like it mattered. Like the fact that in the original PS2 version, you hold the square button to aim your gun. And if you want to shoot, you let go of it. And if you don't want to shoot, you slowly let go of it. Because remember, the buttons had that analog functionality on the PS2. And that hasn't really been there. I think the PS3 got rid of that and it's never come back.
I haven't missed it.
No, but for that those specific games, it kind of messes it up.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Because then to like undo that, the only way I've found to be able to undo that, pull the gun aiming without shooting is to de-equip the gun.
Right.
Which changes the camera angle and makes it super awkward anyway, and you're already using your left thumb to aim anyway because the controls on those things all suck. That's why the square button thing actually works. But yeah, it's that's a weird thing to use as a backwards compatibility option because they're the ones that actually have trouble with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember, would I prefer to be able to play Colony Wars on a PS5 today by just sticking the disc in? Absolutely. But again, that's going to be more common moving forward because now you're just sort of using the same hardware configurations with Power Boost, whereas the old consoles were like, we have to reinvent how hardware works every single time we put a new console out because there was this weird perception of like, if it's not a completely different way of approaching console hardware, why are we buying a new console?
Really, you're right. Yeah.
The Emotion Engine sounds ridiculous now, but at the time, you really did have to have something like that as a bullet point as your justification for putting a new console out.
Yeah, because the other thing, too, is people understand technology way better now than they did back then. Like, the average Joe does. Like, now people know what a GPU is and what a CPU is and what RAM is and what a motherboard is. Like, people have, as far as that is concerned, have graduated to college as far as understanding how computers work and what does what and how they fit together and how
they're also not
the bottlenecks. And
they're not as likely to believe some nonsense like Emotion Engine or blast processing.
Because everybody knows now it's like everyone builds things basically the same. Yeah. All right. I
mean, you're already looking at what the Switch 2 is going to be because of the new Shield Tech thing they were showing.
That new Tegra chip or whatever.
That's what the Switch 2 is.
It probably is going to be. Yep. Okay.
Accept it. Come to terms with it right now because that's what you're going to be playing Mario on.
Yeah. Okay. I think with that, it's time for us to get on with housekeeping. We're going to kick things off with the story about Fortnite, a game that we don't talk about all that often because, Matt, I feel like we thought maybe it was starting, it had cascaded already, and it was on the downside of its popularity.
But the downside of Fortnite's popularity could take a generation to disappear. I mean,
well, Epic had said from last year, they're like, our numbers aren't down as far as people who are still active players, but our numbers are way down as far as those people spending money on the battle pass and cosmetics and things like that. So the revenue was on a downward slope while the users were kind of flat and plateaued. You would never know that, though, because they just launched the brand new season of Fortnite, and it had like the biggest concurrent day ever. 45 million players logged in for Fortnite's new season over the weekend. 45 million people.
Was that they bring back the original map?
It's the OG map. And the crazy part
what you're telling me is Fortnite is old enough to have nostalgia now for itself.
Well, the crazy part is like a lot of like my nephews, they were too young when it came out that they don't even know what the OG map is. Like, to them, it's just a new map.
Yeah, it's new to you.
It's
just like crazy. NBC reruns.
Yeah. So I think what we're seeing here is that Fortnite is very malleable and very durable. I think when we count it out, we're being fools. Like, I think the thing is, every time an 18-year-old stops playing Fortnite, 3 13-year-olds start playing Fortnite. And it's just this cycle that I don't see going away until Fortnite is no longer sort of this panacea of tween gaming.
It's going to take whatever the next big thing is to replace it.
Yeah. I don't know what it would be. Meanwhile, they lay off 1,000 people and they have their best week ever with Fortnite.
Although they're still not profitable in the Epic Game Store.
the Epic Game Store isn't profitable. Yeah. But when you're giving away $500 million worth of games a year, you're kind of putting yourself behind the 8 ball as far as turning a profit there. But you're right. Epic Game Store still not making money. Fortnite making money hand over fist, somewhere in between there.
I'll tell you what they should do if they want to make revenue again on Fortnite is start bringing back the old skins to purchase.
Right. The ones that they say that, like, once they're gone, they're gone.
Because that's ridiculous. There's plenty of kids, just like you say, there's kids that weren't old enough. Like, really, like some kid who wasn't old enough or his parents didn't think that he was old enough to play this game, he never gets to play as Spider-Man.
Right.
Because he missed that week.
Yeah.
Like, that's fucked up.
It is dumb. But the problem is that I wouldn't say swindle, but you're motivating people to get those with the idea that once they're gone, they're gone.
But if you're not going to bring them back for sale until like years later, that's still an incentive.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you want to play Spider-Man between now and like 2027, you got to earn it right now. But back then, we might sell it for $10.
Maybe when you launch a skin, you tell them how long it's going to be exclusive to the Battle Pass. So say you get 3 years. That seems fair.
Yeah. And maybe only put it up for sale real fast.
Right.
When you really
need
a
flash sale.
Near the end of a quarter when you need a revenue boost.
Yeah, when you need a bump. Yeah.
I think it would work.
Oh, it absolutely would work. Absolutely. Particularly with some of the skins you're talking, like Spider-Man. Some of the superhero skins that kids can't get now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's still leveraging, like, FOMO in the way that, like, we think microtransactions are scummy for doing. But I'm just saying, you're in for a penny, in for a pound on this thing. That's what Fortnite does. So.
Yeah. It is kind of crazy when I look back. It's like I try to think.
At least this adds some kind of value to the consumer in that they can get the things that they missed.
Yeah. When I think back across like all the decades of gaming that we've covered, there aren't many games that are big hits that I never get into. But this is one of them. I've never really enjoyed Fortnite. I play it and I don't hate it or anything, but I'm just like, I'd rather just play something else. There's that. Minecraft I never really got into.
I don't remember the last time a game was a giant hit that I did get into it.
That you did get into it?
Most of the big, all-encompassing games, I don't care about this. I don't care about PUBG. I don't care about COD. I don't care about Minecraft. I didn't care about Angry Birds. I didn't care. The last time I was on the cutting edge of the thing that's super popular is probably Modern Warfare II.
Or Bloodborne, Dark Souls.
Those aren't the critical mass that these things.
No,
Everybody.
you're right.
Parents of people that have never. Parents of people who play games who have never played games themselves know what these things are. They don't know what Bloodborne is.
No, you're right.
The big, top thing.
Elden Ring maybe is a good comparison though. It was a sensation,
but it's also not really discussed, is it?
Not
like
anymore.
You don't see CNN doesn't talk about Elden Ring. They do talk about Fortnite.
Yeah,
it's not on the same scale.
Yeah. So rumors of Fortnite's demise were wrong. It is.
Good point, Ian. Mario Kart. Not into Mario Kart.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest things ever.
Yeah. Although, is it? I mean, it's big, but it's like I never felt like there was just one.
Every single child I know with a Switch plays Mario Kart.
Yeah.
That's a stand. I mean, it's almost.
It sold another 4 million copies in the last quarter, Matt.
I think that has to be the highest attach rate to the Switch, right? At this point.
I think so.
Tears of the
Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom has already sold almost 20 million units. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think what did Breath of the Wild end up getting to? Like 28 or something, or maybe I got to 40. Now that I think about it, I can't remember. But anyway, 20 million already for Tears of the Kingdom. That is freaking huge.
What is Caleb Faruqi talking about? I was definitely on point with Spider-Man 2 prediction.
Matt was on point with his Spider-Man 2 prediction. I'm not sure what prediction that was.
I don't know what that. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure I was, but I don't know which one you're talking about.
Yeah. All right. Next. Anyway, if you guys think Fortnite's going away, it's not. It is bigger than ever. It's still making money hand over fist, and they still just laid off 1,000 employees.
I did say it was going to be a good game. I was correct. Yes. Yes.
That was a brave prediction there, Kyle.
Bold.
You really went out on a limb on that one.
Going off of merely 25 years of Insomniac's track record.
Yep, bold predictions. So anyway, Fortnite is not going away. It is just becoming stronger. Next up, BlizzCon was this weekend. Did you check out any of the festivities?
Not that you'd notice.
Yeah.
I saw that they announced 3 expansions for World of Warcraft.
They did, yeah.
And that Cataclysm's coming to World of WoW Classic, which seems like the opposite of what you do. Like, it feels like Classic exists to play World of Warcraft pre-Cataclysm, so I don't really understand what the purpose of that
People were
is.
pretty pissed off. They felt like they were being trolled, basically.
Well,
which
like
I can understand it. Yeah.
Like, what else is WoW Classic if not before we ruined the map with Cataclysm? Because I'll tell you, I mean, I never got super into World of Warcraft, but like I played. Our group at G4 started playing because Morgan demanded it. She like basically pointed at a bunch of us. We're like, we're all playing World of Warcraft starting this weekend. Get an account, and we're like, okay. When Morgan said so, you did it. Yeah. So we did. We played the whole thing. It was right It was right when end of Burning Crusade, like right as Wrath of the Lich King came out, and we played that like to hell and back, like everything. We did everything. Is that we max level rating the whole thing. One of the guys in the group got obscenely good at playing the auction house, so like we had more money than we could know what to do with, and like it was fun. And then Cataclysm came out, and we played two days, and everybody quit. That was it. It was the end of it.
That is not surprising.
And I was disappointed because I wanted to play a Worgen. I had a Worgen named Worgen Meb. That I got permission from Morgan to. I'm like, is it okay if I call my Worgen that? And she's like, yes, that's fine. So I had a Worgen named Worgen Meb that I was very excited to play, but then like I just hated it. And not the Worgen.
Oh, I hate World of Warcraft.
But I hated
I've tried it twice.
Cataclysm. Cataclysm ruined everything.
I just hate World of Warcraft. Is not my MMOs. Not for me at all.
No. Well, as I've said many times, like the problem I have with MMOs is. They're filling bars. You're just filling. Like I have never played an MMO that I thought was fun.
Me either.
As a game,
yeah,
the closest is Final Fantasy 14. The combat in that
played at all.
The combat in that is it's not real time really, but you're lining things up in queues enough that it kind of feels like you're doing combos, and you can play with a controller, and the world is interesting to explore. Like it's an interesting place to be. For the most part. So that's the closest I think an MMO has gotten to being a fun game to me. Yeah. Actually, no, I would also say Earth Above and Beyond, which no one remembers.
I've never even heard of that.
That was the spaceship MMO from like 2001 that EA put out. Remember that?
I don't remember it, no.
It was only around for like a year, and it was actually built on the Command & Conquer Renegade engine. But I played that game in the game. I didn't have a gaming PC yet because I was a young child who had just started working at Tech TV. But I played that in the game lab after work for like months.
Wow!
I maxed the whole thing out.
It must have happened before I got there.
It was like months. I wasn't even full time yet.
Yeah.
I would just go into freelance, and after I was done, I'd just play Earth and Beyond when everyone else went home.
Yeah.
And like, I love that game absolutely to death, and I probably wouldn't like it now.
Well,
but like, there's only a couple that I've really gotten into.
Well, what you guys have been seeing for the last couple of minutes is one of those 3 expansions Matt was talking about. This is World of Warcraft. The War Within. It will be the 10th expansion for World of Warcraft, 10th major expansion, and it's coming in 2024. They haven't announced the date yet. Did you think back then when you were creating that Morgan character that World of Warcraft would still be going in 2023, announcing 3 new expansions, and like there'd be World of Warcraft Classic? And
it wasn't really on my mind.
Yeah. You just didn't want to play it anymore. AJ the Legend Watson brings up City of Heroes as a fun game.
I like City of Heroes.
That was a pretty fun MMO to play. I would argue that's probably my top 5 most played MMOs.
City of Heroes is good. City of Heroes took a hit from me because it was the game I was playing when one of my cats died.
No.
Like I was playing it and I noticed he was gone, and I went to find, because he'd been to the vet and he had not been having a good time, and I went to find him, and he'd basically gone under the sink to die. Yeah. And I had to take him in and do it. So, and I will always remember I was playing City of Heroes when
you
when
associate things with moments like that in life. That's just human nature.
That's how it goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, City of Heroes was good. Like City of Villains was even better. Like it was cool how they integrated them and it all kind of worked together. The Mastermind is actually one of my favorite MMO classes of all time. I thought it was a very well done thing. World of Warcraft I appreciate what it is for what it is, but it's not the thing that catches my interest. Like, you're never going to really pull me in that way. And I've played a fair amount. I played the beta. I played the early stuff. It's fine. It's the template. It made it playable, you know? The funny thing is, I remember back in the day when we were playing it, like Wrath of the Lich King era, and we had to install these mods to make it play. The compass thing to point you to the next quest thing, and the extra map stuff, and all that. You had to install these extra mods and activate them. And now they're just part of the UI.
They're part of the game.
Like they just integrated all that, and because there was a period. And probably most of the people watching this show remember that, but there's a period where younger people may not remember, where it's like the frustration and difficulty of use for a long time was considered part of the genre.
Yeah,
like
it was a genre.
Like
tenant.
I don't know if there was a worse, I don't know if there's a worse precedent for any genre other than beyond EverQuest.
Yeah,
because EverQuest was so impenetrably user unfriendly that like for years people are like, well, if you have something that shows you where you need to go, that's cheating. Yeah. And it's just like, no, it's just playability. Because what else am I going to do? I'm going to go look it up online and find the map thing and just go. Like, why don't you just put that in the game? Yeah. Why are you wasting my fucking time? It's like, I am not going to figure out which farmhouse is third house from the left in this part of the in the unlabeled map that doesn't tell me. I have to ask NPCs what part of the farmland. Fuck you! Like, come on, nobody wants to do that.
Yep.
So yeah, it's come a long way, but I don't know. Like, well, I've logged into it a couple times in the last like 5 years, probably just to see how it went, like a free weekend or whatever. I don't even recognize it anymore.
Wow.
Like you can jump to any dungeon, any raid. Like, it's all these like shortcuts for things. Like, I don't
very
even,
user friendly.
Yeah,
now.
it's you can do anything you want. Like, they've completely freed it up for you, which is great.
That's good. Yeah.
But I just don't even know what I'm looking at anymore.
And I just don't care. By the way, the trailer we were just watching is one of Blizzard's awesome CG trailers. Watching it without the audio doesn't do it justice. If you want to check it out, head to SIFTD.net.
The one thing Blizzard always delivers on.
Yeah. Yep. Their trailers are amazing. Two other things were announced at BlizzCon. Two other big things. The first is a new Overwatch 2 hero named, I hope I'm saying this wrong, Mauga, I think is how you say it. Mauga. He is a Samoan tank. Yeah. And he was available for the weekend. You could test him out if you wanted to. And now he's gone. And I don't think he comes back now until like December 7th or December 14th or something like that. Do you ever play tanks in games, Matt?
No.
Me either.
Well, for two reasons. First, I don't find that a very interesting gameplay mechanic. And two, being a tank inherently requires other people to do the work, and I don't trust anyone else to do that.
That's funny. Well, he is a tank. And as I said, he was available to try out this weekend. He'll be permanently a part of the game beginning on December 7th, I believe it is. And they also announced another new character for Overwatch 2, and it is the first ever non-binary character in any Overwatch 1 or 2, and it's a damage hero named Venture. Now, they put out a very quick snippet of gameplay from that, and that's it. They have not released a trailer yet for that character, but that character is not added to the game until next year. So they basically announced two brand new characters for Overwatch 2. One of them's coming soon. The other one is coming next year. And then the final thing that they announced at BlizzCon is the first major expansion to Diablo 4, which is Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred. And this one they did share a date for. It is coming in late 2024. So Q4, holiday season, around there.
Halloween, probably.
That seems like a long time for the first expansion from the game's initial release.
Maybe. I mean, they've probably been delayed a bit by having to unbreak the game they've broken at least once.
Yeah.
It seemed to take them a while to find their feet on how to balance it and what the community wanted from the game. So I'm sure that didn't help. But so I would guess maybe the original plan was to put this out a year after the game came out. Yeah. And now they kind of lost some time on that. Yeah,
they've definitely stumbled a little bit post-launch. There's no doubt about it. And you're right, they've had to hustle and try to fix things and make amends for the game in a lot of ways with the fans, which is funny because for me personally, it's like I finished a campaign and I was like, okay, I'm good. But for most Diablo players, that's just the beginning. So I think for more casual folks like me, you're like, what's the big deal? Like, I played through Diablo 4. I thought it was great. I had a good time. But for the real fans, that's not how it works.
The endgame loot grind is what we're doing. And whatever they did recently changed it, so it's like basically a giant like rainbow of loot everywhere. Everybody seems pretty happy with the most recent change. So maybe they finally figured it out. Yeah. Also, that DLC might be gigantic. Like, we don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing it will be.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm expecting it to be.
And the game was pretty. I mean, even if the DLC is just the equivalent of like one or two of the maps from area, the regions in the main game, that's a giant piece of DLC.
Well, I mean, it's funny, you know, like I said, you know, real fans of Diablo, they finished a campaign and they're just getting started. I mean, it took me like 30 hours to finish the campaign. Like, it wasn't like it was just like a 5-hour thing. Like, I think for most people that bought Diablo 4, even if they're not hardcore fans, they got their money's worth.
Sure, but like the hardcore fans, to them, it's basically a lifestyle game. So
yeah. So anyway, those are the big updates from BlizzCon 2023. I'm just glad to see that this stuff is happening again, Matt, that we're having these in-person conventions again, and like everything's back to normal. Like, really, at this point, the only thing left to come back in full is E3.
Well, that's never happening.
I mean, that's not happening. So it's good to see life getting back to normal, the games industry getting back to normal, fans being able to go to fan fests like BlizzCon again.
That's a little hard for me to swallow, having just had COVID 2 months ago. It's not gone.
Well, no, it's definitely not gone. But these events are happening as if nothing ever happened.
I went to the Directors Guild last night and saw the first episode of Monarch. They were the Godzilla spin-off Apple TV series that they're showing it there, and I'm like, oh, what the hell?
Yeah.
It's pretty good. But there's a scene where one of the characters is in Tokyo, and they have a kaiju, a Godzilla warning, and everybody has to run into these Godzilla shelters. It's actually very cool. Like when you're driving through Tokyo, and it's parts of Tokyo I recognize, but there's these giant signs with Godzilla and like arrows because like there's
it's like a Fallout shelter.
Yeah, there's basically a shelter system in place for a kaiju attack now. And it's very fun. There's some funny stuff in it. There's a reference to people who think everything's a hoax and things. But the main character has to hide in this thing, and they go down, and they're like, we have to wait for the all clear, and the all clear message eventually plays, and it says stuff in Japanese, and then it says it in English, and the English is like, it's like, all clear, everything is all clear, return to your normal life. And it's just like, yeah, that's pretty much what happened, isn't it? Like that. Go back to your normal life. Just pretend that there aren't giant monsters out there that could strike at any moment.
Smash your entire family.
Yeah, it's one of my things for the MonsterVerse, that world, is sort of like, why are you making these?
Yeah.
I mean, other than to make money, like, because like, you know, the Godzilla movies, other than the first one and Shin Godzilla and the new one, are, you know, they're allegories for things. They're social commentary and political commentary, very much so. And they're usually very good at it. The other Godzilla movies are just like dumb fun.
Ham-fisted action movies.
Their kids' movies are dumb, like pro wrestling and rubber suit movies, which are great, you know, fun. But I watched the Godzilla vs. Kong and Godzilla King of the Monsters and all this, and I was like, why are you making these? Because I don't understand what's the point. Sort of, but it's like there has to be more than that. Like, because they're not that entertaining.
Money.
So
money and entertainment.
Right, but they also don't make that much money.
Oh, really?
I mean, they haven't.
I thought the last one did pretty well. No?
Godzilla vs. Kong did okay because it was the only good one.
It was pretty good, actually. Yeah.
I thought King of the Monsters was one of the worst things I've seen in the theater in a long time. It was really boring. Yeah. Like, there was a guy 2 rows ahead of me at King of the Monsters who started scrolling through his news feed on his phone, and normally that would infuriate me.
And you didn't even complain.
And I always look down at him, I'm just like, you know what, dude? I get it.
I get it.
Yeah. In fact, there were a couple moments where I started looking down to see what his news feed said, because it was more interesting than whatever horrible dialogue Bradley Whitford was struggling to deliver. The poor man should not have had to do that. He took a role in a Godzilla movie and got screwed. But yeah, the Monarch thing was actually pretty good. I'll watch more of those episodes, but I thought it was funny that they're finding their feet on this show, because like a little bit of social commentary there. Like, go back to your normal life. Just everybody file out of the shelter for the giant lizard and just go back to shopping or whatever you were doing. It's like
consumerism.
Yeah.
Yep. Next up for our housekeeping, we got some information yesterday out of the PlayStation camp that it is ending its integration with Twitter, now called X. Xbox announced that it was doing the same thing a couple months ago, so now both PlayStation and Xbox have no integration with Twitter any longer.
If you knew that they even had it in the first place.
Well, you should, because the PlayStation controller has a share button on it that is there only because of its integration with Twitter. That's the only reason that button exists on a PlayStation controller.
That button's there for me to take screenshots of No Man's Sky. Everybody knows that.
And basically what's happened, if you're wondering, is that Elmo has decided to charge people to access the API for Twitter. Something no other website, no other app, no other anything does, because it's just bad business. Like, you want people to share your stuff out on the wilds of the internet, so more people use your app or your website. They discover it, they go to it. Like, it is so short-sighted. So now you have this button on your PlayStation controller that you're right now is only there to just save screenshots on your hard drive of your console. So it's interesting. We have also lost integration with Twitter at SIFTD. We're not paying money to use his API. That's insane. Like, nobody is going to do that. And so my hope is...
Reddit tried it.
Reddit tried to pay for the API?
Tried to charge for their API.
Oh, they tried to charge for it as well?
I don't know if they're still doing that. They attempted it. I don't know how that went. And I mean, not well, but I haven't heard anything.
Well, I think, wasn't Reddit, though, it was for, like, data collection, though?
Yeah, but it's still, no one's ever done... I mean, I think they did it following... It's like, oh, if Elon can do something that's stupid, we can do something that's stupid. So.
Yeah. So anyway, you can no longer, like, upload screenshots to Twitter, upload videos to Twitter. I actually use that stuff every once in a while. Like,
I think I've done it a couple times. I put up some Ghost of Tsushima screenshots I was proud of through Twitter that way.
Yeah.
But again, look, it's just, you know, two more major companies don't want to do business with Elon's disaster of a site.
Social media, whatever it is at this point.
What a shock.
I love how his whole thing was like free speech. And literally, it is the opposite of free speech. You pay. You pay to get your comment at the top of every thread. That is the opposite of free speech. It's paid speech. It's crazy. Like, I can't. Anyway, the share button for Twitter no longer works on SIFTD. It's broken because we won't pay for the API. And now the same thing's going to happen on Xbox and PlayStation. I wouldn't be surprised if everybody else in the world does the same thing. And you're just going to end up losing those hooks for Twitter integration.
Yeah, I mean, the Twitter blue thing is pretty useful because you can go into the replies and scroll past everyone with a blue check, and then you get to the actual intelligent replies.
It's insane what has happened to that app. It's like, hey, let's let the idiots who are too stupid to have insightful comments bubble up on their own merit. Let's let them pay so their dumbass comments are at the top of every discussion thread. Let's put the dumbest effing people at the top of every discussion on our platform.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty solid grift, but the problem is it turned out there aren't nearly enough of those people to fund the company. I think
their ad revenue's down 50%. It's just a joke.
Well, because when like you're guaranteed to have your ads sandwiched between two like nut job white supremacists spouting the same talking points on the top of each other. Like, why would no one's going to buy laundry detergent?
If you're Procter and Gamble, do you want your Pillsbury Doughboy next to some dude with a Nazi flag outside of Disneyland? Because that's what's on Twitter now. Nazis all over the place. Insane. I've never seen a mismanagement of anything as bad as Twitter.
That's because most Silicon Valley mismanagement isn't done publicly. But I can assure you, as someone from there who has dealt with a fair amount of tech people from up there, most of them are real dumb.
It's mind-boggling.
And you can tell they're real dumb because they fall for such ridiculous shit like the NFT crypto shit. I mean, you saw the thing in Hong Kong this week?
I didn't, but
there was a bit like a NFT Bored Ape Yacht Club convention thing in Hong Kong. They had a bunch of stage lighting and things up. They had UV lights up. They were disinfectant UV lights for like cattle pens. So all these people like the next day were like, why do my eyes hurt? They sunburned everyone's corneas with industrial disinfectant UV lights used as decoration because these people don't know shit about how anything works.
No. Like I said, now the dumbest people are at the top of every thread on Twitter. The dumbest people. Because first of all, paying $8 a month to use a free app, dumb. Period. Anyway, if you want to hear something else dumb, the next story is equally stupid, but this one is from Japan. Capcom said this week that it believes that PC mods are no different than cheating.
I mean, they're right if the mod is a cheat. But if you're just making Chun-Li appear naked, you're kind of just a loser. Well, you're not cheating. You're just pathetic.
But here's the thing, Matt. Is there any such thing as cheating in a single-player game?
Yeah, but
really?
Like, who cares? I mean, if I put a God mode code in, I'm cheating. But who cares?
Is it though? If you're not hurting anybody else, like, I guess. Like, I mean, they were called cheats back in the day.
You're cheating at the game, but if you're the only one playing, who cares?
Who cares?
I mean, this comes out of the naked Chun-Li thing. Was the prompt for this, which is
that's just cosmetic stuff.
Right.
They're just pissed off that people screwed with their code, and now there's naked Chun-Li pictures all over the internet.
Well, they're pissed off that it was on a stream. That's what it was on a fighting
tournament. It was in an official esports stream.
Which again is like, I mean, that's not something I wouldn't go after mods for that. I'd go after whoever organized that tournament and didn't check the fucking mods on the. I mean, come on, people.
They're looking for someone to blame other than the people they should be blaming, basically. Now I hear ya. If PC mods in multiplayer games, that's definitely a problem. But well, truth be told, they've already found tons of cheaters in Modern Warfare 3 during the beta weekend.
Of course.
Already, tens of thousands of people using aimbots and wall hacks. You want to know how I knew for sure that cheating in games was way out of control? Was I talked to my 9-year-old nephew who was telling me that he just installed an aimbot and a wall hack in Fortnite. He said the name aimbot. He said the word aimbot, and my eyeballs almost popped out of my freaking head. He's 9.
Yeah.
And he knew what an aimbot and a wall hack was because everybody's doing it. Like all these
basically
games,
keeping up with the Joneses at this point.
Seriously, all these games are just littered with cheaters. They can't figure it out. They can't stop it. Call of Duty, no different. I reported in that beta weekend, I reported at least 20 people who were cheating. So all you got to do after you get killed is click the right stick and cheat. They're doing the best they can to try to stop it, but they can't because everybody's doing it. So multiplayer games, I understand what Capcom's saying. Single player games, F off. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't care. I mean, I cheated.
Who cares?
I cheated the living shit out of Baldur's Gate 3.
Nobody
just
cares.
to make it enjoyable. But like,
I don't
that's that's what those things are for.
Yeah, you're not affecting anyone else. It's fine. Anyway, so
I'm affecting whether or not your achievements mean anything. I've seen that. I've actually seen that argument. Where
I can understand some people who are crazy hardcore into achievements. Like that was one of the questions in the latest episode of Ash Ain't Anything was what I think of achievements and trophies. But I can't partake in them. Like,
I mean, the answer to that is I don't.
I don't either. Yeah.
Like I haven't cared about achievements and trophies since probably the 360 generation. In part because you can't see anyone's anymore. Like it was different. Like that generation, more 360 than PS3. But like your trophies and your achievements were sort of prominent whenever you looked at anyone's profile. Nowadays, I don't look at anyone's profile anyway, and even if you do, you got to dig 3 screens down to find their achievements anyway, or intentionally compare your achievements to theirs, and nobody does that. Like, who cares? Yeah. Like, it's not interesting anymore. It's no longer part of the hook. So I haven't paid attention. You know, everyone's like, oh, I'm going to platinum the Spider-Man game. I'm like, I don't even know what the trophies in the new Spider-Man game are. Yeah. I don't care.
I went and looked through my trophies and achievements because of that question and looked, and I'm just like you. 360 era, tons of
thousands out of 1,000. Like I used to do everything. Yeah.
I go cold on Xbox for like 6 years, and all my achievements and all my trophies then are on PlayStation, and now it's kind of split down the middle for this generation. I'm kind of getting equal achievements on both of them, but anyway.
I just don't care. It's cool. When one pops up, I'm like, oh, cool. And it's always interesting to me to see which achievements are rare. Like that was a good addition where it's like you can see like, oh, this one's less than 4%. It's, I mean, not that I care and like, oh, I have so many rare achievements. It's more like it's interesting to me to see which stuff people don't do. Yeah, it's so like as a metric, it's an interesting little thing. But like overall, do I go out of my way to get all the achievements for anything? And not for a decade now.
I don't even have the graphics turned on anymore. They don't even pop because I record B-roll and I don't want the things popping up in the B-roll. So I don't even know when they happen.
I do leave
anymore.
them on, but there are moments like the rare achievement pop up on Xbox takes so fucking long to go away. I'm like, there's moments where I'm like, I'm trying to play here, dude. You're in front of the subtitle. I can't pick the dialogue choices if you're doing that.
Yeah. So anyway, Capcom's crazy. Another piece of housekeeping from this week. Microsoft. Again, a job for the Duck Consulting Agency. Microsoft decided it was going to pull the free Game Pass perk from its employees.
So I guess we can officially say that they're really looking for new subs at this point.
I mean, what does that tell you?
Yeah.
I did the math.
Now, to be fair, Phil says he didn't even know this was happening. Yeah. And he was like, I'm going to look into it. Because it's like, this is the most like, you're giving your employees a really interesting and good perk that helps get them engaged with the brand they're trying to work with, and it costs you nothing. Absolutely nothing. Yeah. It's ridiculous. This is definitely short-sighted, weird executive shit. Oh, yeah. From probably above Phil's pay grade.
So I did the math, and it worked out that they were losing, like, a lot of money per month, but
only if you think every single person would then pay to subscribe. Right. Like, that doesn't.
You want your employees to believe in your product.
There's also, presumably your employees are providing you enough value in their day-to-day work that it's worth a $15 a month expenditure to keep them entertained when they're not there.
Right. Yeah. It was really dumb.
It builds loyalty.
Really stupid.
It like makes them feel good. They've got that extra.
Yeah.
There's no downside to keeping this in place for the employee. It's ridiculous.
Because it costs them nothing.
It's nothing.
Nothing. Like Pac figured out like the server costs or whatever, and he's like, it costs like 4 cents per hour to stream stuff on xCloud. Like, it costs you
Completely
nothing.
ridiculous.
Yeah. So I don't know what Microsoft was thinking, but it did reverse course and decide it was a terrible idea. And so now its employees will continue to get Game Pass in perpetuity.
even G4 paid for our parking.
Right.
You know, like,
That's
come
right.
on.
If G4 can afford to pay for that, then come on.
Give me a break.
Yep. Next up in housekeeping, we only got a couple more stories here. We talked about Lies of P, which is a Bloodborne-ish clone, definitely Souls-like, that ended up selling 1 million units in its first month. And we said that was amazing for a small game like Lies of P. Well, because of those sales, Lies of P is now getting a sequel. Maybe the least surprising news of the week, Matt. Because anytime a game from a small publisher sells 1 million copies, 100% is getting a sequel. I mean, this is the holy grail for small publishers.
They probably wouldn't have been happy with half that.
Right. Oh, I think even 500,000 they would have made a sequel. And I mean, it'll probably end up selling like 3 or 4 million by the time it's all said and done. It'll get discounted to 30 or 40 bucks. It'll sell another million. Like, it's going to end up doing very well. So good to see that this will come back, because let's be honest, a lot of people do like it. Even though we didn't like it, a lot of people do. And I'm not about raining on other people's parades. If a lot of people like Lies of P, I'm happy for them that they're getting a sequel. So probably get information on that. My guess, we'll get the first trailer at the Game Awards next year or something like that. I
wouldn't worry about this until probably 2027.
Yeah, that's when we'll get the game, likely, for sure. So anyway, Lies of P2 is on the way.
Truths of P.
Yep. And then we finally got pricing for the new headsets for PlayStation. PlayStation is releasing those new, really cool, I think, earbuds. And
they ain't that cool.
They are that cool because they cost $200. The earbuds cost $200. And then the new cans that they're releasing, those are also $200, which that makes a little more sense. But even that's outrageous. Like, you can get, like, brand new top-of-the-line headsets from any competitors for, like, $160. Like, there's no reason to spend $200 on a pair of headphones for gaming. Like, you can get the very best for, like, $160, $180. So those are way overpriced. I don't know what PlayStation's thinking. Earbuds for $200? You can get AirPods for, like, what, $150, $140, something like that?
Yeah, less if you wait for like the right Amazon sale
or if you wait for the new version to come out and buy the old version, then you get them for like $100. Like, I don't know what PlayStation is thinking with that pricing. PlayStation's done a couple head-scratching things lately that I'm just like, what? Like, what are you doing? What are you thinking? And then another smaller story from the PlayStation camp this week. We reported on GameFace, was it 2 weeks ago, I think, about how there were layoffs at Naughty Dog, and those layoffs came from the Last of Us multiplayer team. Well, one of the people working on that team went on Twitter and said this week, the game isn't canceled. So what do you think's going on there, Matt?
I don't know. Readjustments of some kind.
Do you think it's so far along that they were able to cut staff down to the core to finish it off? Like,
maybe.
It seems crazy to me.
I don't know enough about... I mean, it doesn't seem crazy to me. It seems like we just don't know something.
Do you think it's weird that Naughty Dog or Sony didn't come out and say something instead of this rogue employee? That seems a little weird.
I mean, odds are the company is bound by the same NDAs, and this employee just doesn't care.
You think this guy will get fired? The guy who announced this?
Might.
He might. For saying something that a lot of people were relieved by. But you're right. If you can't keep your mouth shut...
Especially in Naughty Dog.
It is crazy.
If Neil Druckmann thinks you might leak the next plot point to Last of Us Part 3, yeah, you're out.
He doesn't trust you. Yeah, it's true. It is crazy how secretive the games industry is compared to every other entertainment industry.
It depends. Like, I've learned a little bit, you know, it's there's a lot of secrecy in the board game industry because everyone's afraid that someone will beat them to the punch with some new mechanic.
Copy the ideas,
Because especially like games that take years to make. Movies, there's a lot of secrecy on that. We're getting a Ghostbusters Afterlife 2 trailer tomorrow. We don't even know the title of that movie.
Really?
Nobody knows anything about that movie. It was supposed to come out in December, but it's not.
Feels like generally we do know more about
usually
films
from
and
leaks,
games.
but that's from like leaks and set pictures from
Not
outside of things.
stuff,
Yeah, the official stuff is pretty tightly controlled, and even more tightly controlled now that the strike is still on. The other thing about that Monarch thing was in that show, I don't know if you know, but Kurt Russell and his son play the same character at different ages.
No, I didn't know that, actually.
His son Wyatt is
That's
like
kinda
him in
cool.
1959, and he plays the same character like older. And his son does a dynamite impression of his father. I mean,
You would hope
who
so.
doesn't, right? But most of our fathers are not Kurt Russell.
Right.
But there's a world in which this strike had been settled earlier because the studios decided to pay their fucking actors properly, and Kurt Russell showed up to the Q&A last night, and I got to see that, and so I'm mad at the studios for that too. Pay the goddamn actors, people.
Yeah, they should.
What are you gonna do? It's like, oh, last offer. What are you gonna do? Just no more actors? Like, what's the?
I don't know. What do they think the end game is?
I don't know. Well,
I saw their latest contract offer. They were like, okay, once you die, we have the rights to you forever.
The rights to you forever is, and the SAG's like,
are you crazy?
No.
Are you crazy? They've been on strike for months, and that's your offer?
Yeah. Shows you how serious they're taking it.
It's crazy. So anyway, that's our housekeeping. I think you think it'll make some people happy. The Last of Us multiplayer game is still coming. Like,
someone out there must want it.
It feels like most people don't care.
There are people that got really into factions.
Yeah.
So I just don't know if it's. I don't know if the amount of people who are interested in that is going to equate to the amount of effort and money and time it took to make it. You know, but I guess that's any game.
Yeah.
In the end.
Yeah. So there you go. That's our housekeeping for GameFace episode 365. We're about to kick off the show proper, and we have 5 games to talk about today. It's going to be fast. That's all I got to say. How much time we got? Oh, we're okay. We got 5 games to talk about today. Before we do that, here's a word from our sponsor, LS Cream. LS Cream is a fine cream liqueur created by fellow gamer and sifter Stevens Charles. It's inspired by an ancestral recipe from Haiti called Crémasse, and a double gold winner for its original taste at the New York Wine and Spirit International Competition. LS Cream can be enjoyed on the rocks or as a mixer for drinks with its rich blend of fresh cream and neutral grain spirits with notes of coconut, vanilla, cinnamon, and nutmeg. It's great in coffee or to make espresso martinis. To learn more, discover amazing drink recipes, or to track down your own bottle using a handy store locator, head to creamls.com/sifted. That's creamls.com/sifted. So undoubtedly, Crémasse has become a meme. It's become a sifted meme. You guys have turned it into a meme. You guys
I'm waiting for somebody to do like the cutout of Steve's head saying
Crémasse with a little word text bubble. That's awesome. I love that you guys have done that. And I'm sure Steve loves it too, because that's the type of stuff that shows that the marketing that they're doing with us is endearing you guys to the product, and that's exactly what you want, and that should definitely make Steve really happy. As the ad says, go to creamls.com/sifted. Try to use that URL if you can. If you head to their website, it's got everything that you need there. It will give you a store locator in your neighborhood. You can figure out where you can walk to get yourself a bottle. There's a store locator for online retail where it can help you order stuff to have delivered to you or to a friend if you want to send a friend a bottle. Everything's right there. Great drink recipes. Steve is an awesome dude. You guys see him in our chat all the time. He's dropping you guys, giving you guys subs in our chat every week. Support your fellow gamers. Support your fellow sifters. Support LS Cream at creamls.com/sifted. And with that, it's time to kick off the show proper, and I get to use one of the 2 lower thirds that actually made it onto the hard drive today. We're going to kick off the show talking about the campaign in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. Matt, this is
a campaign that's shorter than this show.
It's not. It's not that short. I guess maybe the first thing
people have beaten it in less than 3 hours.
Really?
Yep.
I don't know how that's possible.
Average time completion is 5.
Yeah, that's about how long it took.
3, a speedrunner could easily do it in 3.
I guess if you didn't watch the cutscenes, the thing about it is there aren't that many cutscenes.
I completely gave up on the idea of playing this when I saw the people's reactions to the campaign. That A, it was so short, and B, they hated it.
Well, the first thing I'm here to say is that I think the general overarching opinion of the campaign is a little overwrought. I don't think it's as bad as people are saying. Like, it's not a 5 out of 10 is what I'm getting at.
I don't know. Using multiplayer maps for single-player stuff is a pretty big red flag.
I don't see, but even if that's true...
Battlefield used to do that, and it was terrible.
Even if that's true, which I'm not 100% sure that it is.
It is. They were comparing them.
I think they're kind of the same, but they're not exactly the same.
Well, you tweak them a little bit, but they're still...
they're tile sets.
Not tile sets. They're actually terrain is the same. The problem is that there's usually similar environments. Like there's certainly in the old games, like, a lot of the multiplayer maps were taking inspiration from areas you'd be in the campaign, but they weren't the same place.
Yeah.
And apparently that is kind of what's happening here. And... which is weird because normally, even in the laziest COD campaigns, the single-player stuff is pretty crafted, and that doesn't seem to be happening. People were like, that was the big complaint I saw, was like, there's some like custom stuff in the beginning and the end, and the middle is just sort of like running around doing what's almost just like general SWAT stuff.
No, the second and third missions are the open world missions. Let me just rewind here. First of all, I don't really care if they lifted the terrain directly from a multiplayer map. If the single player mission is great, I don't care that they copied and pasted. If it's good,
right? But apparently it isn't.
But it's not. You're right. It's not.
And part of the reason for that is probably that they were just sort of plopping single player content onto a map and not designing it around what they thought the single player mission should be.
I think the problem is that they've never really done open world missions before.
That is a problem.
And they just didn't really know how to do it and make it fun. So
well, it's also kind of a weird thing to put in this series. Like, that's not what COD is.
The closest thing we've had to it in Call of Duty was in Black Ops 2. There was a couple missions in there that were kind of open-ended and open areas.
Like, at most, I think you'd want to do something that was sort of like a God of War style thing. Smallish but open-ish places where you have different things to go do in locations.
Yeah. These open-world missions, they really do just plop you down into a big open area, and then they just load it up with, like, weapon loadouts, weapons, kill streaks, gadgets. There's just stuff everywhere. Like, I walked around one mission, Matt, carrying a turret. So I would just put it down. It would wipe out everybody in the area. I'd pick it up. I'd walk with it another 100 yards. I'd put it back down. And I'll be honest with you, that was kind of fun. It's a different way to play Call of Duty. They overload it, though. The real problem for me with the open world missions in this is that they were just way too easy. They gave you, like, the whole kit and caboodle. Like, the best kill streaks. Like, the best armaments. The best guns. And then you just go out and just slaughter, basically. Like, there's no tension in any of them. Like, the first one that you play is, like, in the shipping yard. It is literally just flat ground with a bunch of shipping containers. That's it. Like, that's the whole environment. Is shipping containers loaded up with these caches of weapons and grenades and kill streaks and things like that. I'll say this. It is like an open playground that you can fiddle around with. There's also vehicles, by the way, in these missions, which you don't typically get in Call of Duty campaigns. If there's a vehicle, somebody else is piloting it, and you're usually just along for the ride. In this, there's just ATVs and trucks and stuff like that just plop down in the middle of these kind of open campaign missions. So, to your point, the big new feature for the campaign, in fact, was the open world missions. And also, to your point, they are not handled particularly well, which I could see, why it would sour people on the game. But I would also argue that, like, the more curated, more linear missions in this just aren't really great either, Matt. Like, there's no moments in this that I really remember where I'm like, oh, remember when the whole world was crumbling down all around me and I was running as fast as I could and I barely got out of this hole in the wall before it collapsed. Like, there aren't moments like that in this. It's very subdued for some reason. They try to place an emphasis on the all-stars of Call of Duty, basically. So you have Task Force 141 with Soap McTavish and John Price and Ghost, and they're now, like, the crew for Call of Duty campaigns.
But I also saw, like, one of the pivotal moments with Soap that is same as the one from the old one. The old one had actual emotion in it, and Price is just sort of like, meh. Like, weird.
I'll talk about the ending in a minute, but
what a weird set of the Modern Warfare 3 curse continues, apparently.
Yeah,
because I didn't like the original 3 much either.
I liked it.
I don't remember
but
much.
At the time, it was the third best of the 3.
Right, but also, like, you talk about, like, not remember. I don't remember anything about Modern Warfare 3. I remember. I remember the submarine thing at the beginning. That's about it. Like,
Yeah.
In comparison to 1 and 2, which I would put among the best campaigns in first-person shooterdom, they're no Titanfall 2, but they're good. I remember tons of stuff from Modern Warfare 1 and 2. Like,
yeah. So here you're seeing...
And even Black Ops, but Modern Warfare 3, just like you're saying here, was just a dead fish.
Well, here you're seeing one of the open missions, and they almost always give you drones so you can go up and you can tag enemies so you know where all the enemies are. Like, there's just... And you saw right before this, you saw the big weapon cache that I came across. Literally, those are like every 50 yards. So it's like, pick whatever you want and just go crazy. Like...
It's weird because it's like Destiny already kind of figured out this sort of style of gameplay.
Yeah. No, you're right. But you'd have to complete... First of all, if you were to do a game like that, it wouldn't have come out this year. I mean, another thing, too, is this game was not supposed to come out this year. There was supposed to not be a brand new entry in Call of Duty this year. And they started working on this as an expansion to Modern Warfare 2, and then they realized, hey, we can do a little more work on this and sell it as a full-price game again. And so that's what they've done. This story is a direct continuation of the Modern Warfare 2 reboot. And I believe that they've basically... Here's what I think, Matt. I think that they have rebooted this franchise so that they can keep these characters front and center. Because let's be honest...
when you think of characters they have.
Right, that's all they got. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of nameless, faceless military dudes. And so...
I mean, I know they tried to create some characters in Black Ops, but nobody seemed to remember
no one cared.
them, really.
Yeah, they didn't stick.
Because at least the first two follow that same guy, right? Mm-hmm. Like through the years or whatever. Yep. Yeah, I don't remember his name, but...
Yep. And so the game begins with you breaking Makarov out of prison. This game is the king of making you do stuff you don't want to do. So the game starts, you play as a bad guy to start the game. Like, you don't realize it at first, like you may have if you cheated and looked online for the plot synopsis. I didn't, because I don't do that. So I was surprised to find out that the first mission... You're saving Makarov. You're breaking him out of the gulag. He has been in this crazy prison. And you break him out. So that's just the first time the game makes you do stuff that you're not really particularly interested in doing.
That sounds familiar, though. I feel like that's been a thing they've done a couple of times.
No Russian. I mean, that's an example. Yeah. There's two other scenes in this game where you may make you do stuff that you don't want to do. Now, one, they do give you a choice. There is kind of a ripoff of No Russian in this. It's not set in the prison. It's a different part of the game. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody who might play it. But there is a section of this game that is like No Russian. And they actually give you a choice on who... Like, there's another part, like this prison break thing that we saw there. They give you a choice there whether you want to fight on the side of the prison guards or you want to fight on the side of the prisoners. And conceivably, that changes how you play through the level. I don't know. Then there's another section later on where you're at a stadium... And that's where the scene plays out that is very much like No Russian. So there's three, and then there's a scene on a plane that makes people do stuff that nobody wants to do. And I think you can fill in the blanks there on what that is.
Rescuing Price from the Gulag in Modern Warfare 2, that's what I was thinking
Yeah.
of. So they're kind of... They're like, oh, we're mixing it up. You don't know. It's like an alternate world.
But this, as you can see, just from these last 10 seconds of cutscenes... This game is like an all-star cast story. They've tried to squeeze all the characters that you care about into one plot, and it just
Joke's on them. I don't care about any of these people.
You don't care about Makarov even?
No, I don't even remember who he is. He's the bad guy,
the No
right?
Russian guy, yeah.
Okay, I don't care.
He's been like the only real bad guy in the series, basically.
Yeah, I mean there was the other guy whose arm got. Is that him? The guy got his arms? That's another guy.
No, that's a different guy.
That's the other.
He
Russian
was like
guy.
the first bad guy, and then
Makarov's the guy behind him,
right?
Right? Yeah. See, I don't care about any of this stuff. I remember Price. I remember Soap. I remember Ghost. That's it.
And that's what most people realize, and that's why they've rebooted this franchise to make sure that they're front and center in all the stories going forward. So anyway, the plot really is that Makarov...
Now all I think about with Ghost is how ridiculous he looks with his eyeballs moving in that mask in the new versions.
Well, somebody even asked him in this game, like, why do you wear the mask? And he goes, to hide my face.
Okay, snake eyes. Yeah.
So really the plot of this game is Makarov has escaped. He's got a hold of a bunch of sarin gas and a bunch of missiles. He's going to end the world, and you have to stop him before... It feels like the same plot of every Call of Duty campaign. Just swap out the bad guy who has the sarin gas. Like...
Well, it's like there's only so much you can do to try and keep this kind of idea politically neutral enough to not make you feel like some kind of imperialist monster.
Right. Yeah.
What else can you do?
Yeah.
You have to, simplify things down to cartoon levels, and but like they're trying to be as realistic as possible in terms of equipment and setting, and it's just really none of it really hangs together. It feels like a relic of another time at this point.
This is another open world mission.
Infinite Warfare was good because it took you away from all that. You didn't. There was no. You didn't have to really justify anything because, like, I don't care how the nuance of Kit Harington's political take on who should be in the moons of Uranus. Like, it doesn't matter. And also, I noticed
nobody cared about that game, but you and I.
Well, I noticed on Twitter this week there was an Infinite Warfare rehabilitation movement. There's like a bunch of people like we didn't appreciate this game the way we should have, and like a bunch of people was like, yeah, that game was actually awesome, and I didn't give it credit at the time, and I replayed it, and it's actually really good now. And it was just like, well, it's too late now, fuckers, isn't it? Man, I went to look at that. I'm like, oh, I wonder what that would look like on my PC. I went to look at it on Steam. It's still $60.
Yeah.
99 if you want the full pack.
That's
I was
insane.
like, give me a break, guys. Like,
yeah. So this is another of the open world missions, and you can see it's just this like nuclear plant or whatever. I don't know if I don't play Warzone, so I wouldn't even recognize if these maps were pulled from Warzone, honestly. But I don't know. There's a different kind of charm to these missions than the more linear, straightforward, curated ones. They have a different energy, a different spirit to them, and I kind of enjoyed them. They're not great, but I didn't think that they were terrible or that it like ruined Call of Duty or whatever. I don't know. I found like there were like this, like helicopter shows up. I'm like, what's that dude doing? Oh, I'm going to shoot it. Oh, like it's alive, and now they're going to start attacking me out of the helicopter. Like this stuff didn't happen in old Call of Duty missions. Like it just doesn't.
Well,
so,
it's all scripted. If it did.
Yeah. It just feels way more organic and alive than Call of Duty campaigns have in the past. Yeah, he's like, oh, I'm going to die. I'm getting out of here.
That's awful.
Yeah.
That looked ridiculous.
And the other thing I'll say, too, is I feel like
You're
at
really
times...
unpacking a bunch of shit there.
Yeah. Well, no, so that's another thing in the campaign. You have armor plates. And, like, as you play, you unlock more armor plates that you can replace. And so what I was doing there was I had been shot, and my armor plates had been destroyed, and I was replacing them in my armor, basically. I was replacing the plates. But here you can see, here I am, walking around the environment with the turret, and just waiting for those guys to show up. I'm like, hey, everybody.
That was nice of him to wait until you turned around.
Yeah, exactly. Put the turret down, and they just start, I don't know. I had some fun in this. And as you can see, there now I have a stealth bomber. Like, you get to use, like, kill streaks that maybe some people are never good enough at multiplayer to ever get to use them. Like, you get to use them in this campaign, which I thought was kind of cool. So... I don't know. There are times in this where I felt like they were trying to soften Makarov, like make you feel sympathetic towards him. That also bothered me. I'm like, why are you trying to both sides this guy? He's got sarin gas. Like, what are you doing? Like,
I mean, so do we. But
no, I'm saying like in the game he has sarin gas. He's about to kill everybody, and in the game they're trying to say he's not so bad. Like, no, he's awful.
Well, they're trying to do the thing where the villain has a point, even though you. Want to stop him,
right?
Like the Killmonger thing,
right?
Where it's like, yeah, Killmonger ain't wrong. He's just, but
it's the way he goes about solving the problem. That's what's the problem.
But Makarov seems like unless you very strongly change the premise of who he is and what he wants, it's kind of hard to sympathize with him.
And then there's other scenes too where I was kind of like, what? So, for example, there's one scene where. Trying to explain this. So the scene I was talking about earlier that happens on the plane that they make you do that you're probably not going to want to do, you do something bad in that. And then to make up for it and to cover for it, the game asks you to do something else that's terrible, which is wiping the black box from the flight so that nobody will know what happened on the flight. Like, I don't know. It feels like the moral compass of this game is a little bit off.
I mean, you're murdering people the whole time, so I don't really think that the moral compass matters.
Well, if they're trying to kill the whole world with sarin gas and nukes, like, I don't know. I don't feel that bad about doing that. Like, they're trying to end the world.
That's what you're told.
Yeah. Well, this game never goes deep enough for you to think that what you're told isn't true. So anyway,
Captain Price always tells the truth.
Yeah. So when you do get to like the more curated levels, like there aren't as many set pieces as you would expect from typical Call of Duty games. It's really more of a straightforward experience. Like I can't think of like many iconic moments or moments where I'm just like in awe of what's happening around me. Like there aren't many of those in the campaign. There's not even like a crazy chase sequence, which is in every Call of Duty or in every action game. Like, they don't even do that. And I'll admit...
Well, that takes time.
Well, the other thing, too, is the Modern Warfare 2 chase sequence was a nightmare. It was awful. Where you're like...
This also really seems like a rush job.
It does.
To justify not having to be DLC. I imagine it's short because they basically crammed another open world thing in there.
Yeah.
To call it a campaign length. And
yeah. There's no chase sequence. There isn't even a dedicated sniper mission in this, Matt, which every Call of Duty ever has had. Yeah, you can use a sniper rifle if you want to.
Even the space one did that.
Yeah, but there isn't one in this. It's really weird. Like, the best mission, the one I remember the most, is an AC-130 bombing run, which, again, I've done a billion times, but it's still fun, and so that's the one thing that I remember the most of the campaign missions in this game.
I'm surprised nobody ever made a game that was just that.
Right. It would be fun.
There's mobile games that are just that.
Right.
I have a mobile game that's AC-130 versus zombies.
Oh, really?
You're shooting,
that would be fun.
It's like you're defending a bunker against zombies attacking with an AC-130.
Yeah.
It is fun.
Yeah.
But it's like, that level was such a standout thing, even going all the way back to Modern Warfare 1. It's surprising to me that, like, nobody just made an AC-130 game.
Yeah. There's hardly any stealth in the game, but you're constantly using night vision goggles. Like, figure that one out. Like,
well, you gotta see.
It's funny, though. Like, usually those go hand in hand with stealth missions. Not the case in this. There's no stealth missions. And then there was, like, a couple scenes where I was just like, what the heck is going on? Where, like, you and Task Force 141 are talking to each other through the earpieces, and the people who are standing around you without earpieces are contributing to the conversation. Just dumb leaps of logic, like, where they just didn't think it through. Again, to your point, probably because it was a rush job. Them trying to create a game that they could sell as a standalone game instead of just an expansion pack to Modern Warfare 2. So, and then to what you said earlier about soap, I didn't even know if I wanted to talk about it, but you brought it up already. They do replicate that scene here, which when it happened before was an emotional moment. Here, dude just runs into the room, commits the act, and runs out, and the game ends. It is the worst ending to a game I've seen in I don't know how long, Matt. Like, they don't make endings to games as bad as this anymore. And it ends on a huge cliffhanger, obviously ready for Modern Warfare 3 or 4, whatever comes next. And so here's the thing. Obviously, based upon the last however amount of time I've been talking about this game, you know that I'm not a huge fan of it. But still, it's not a 5 out of 10. Like, I feel like there's a lot of piling on going on here from people that saw one review where somebody really, like, murdered the game.
What you described sounds like a 5 out of 10 if you're using the whole scale.
No,
I know we don't.
It's not. It's like a 7, high 6, 7, or whatever. You can see the B-roll. It's not incompetent.
Sounds pretty incompetent.
5 is incompetent.
That sounds pretty incompetent.
It's not, though. I mean, if you play it, it's not.
I'll never play it.
I mean, maybe I made a mistake describing it then, because it's not like that. It's not an incompetent game. It's lacking a spark, I guess is the best way I could put it. It's lacking the spark of creativity. I think they felt like, these open missions are going to be all we need. And that'll be enough. It's a huge change for the series. People are going to latch onto that and concentrate on that instead of the other stuff, and they were wrong. It ended up not being the best part of the game. The best parts of the game still are the more curated parts of the game. The more linear parts of the game, which, I think there's promise here. Like, I think if they actually thought about it and spent 2 years working on these more open-ended missions, they might end up being okay. But here they just don't work very well, unfortunately. So here's the thing, though. If you're one of those people who doesn't care about multiplayer or zombies, and we'll talk about those probably in next week's episode. Definitely zombies. I've already kind of talked about multiplayer because I was in the beta. We'll definitely talk about zombies in next week's episode. But if you're a person who buys this game just for the campaign, that's a big no this time. So people are saying it's really short. It took me like 5 hours to finish it. That's about how long Call of Duty campaigns are. So I don't know where this narrative is coming from that is crazy short. Like, it's about the same length as most Call of Duty campaigns.
Call of Duty campaigns are 8 to 10.
No, never. I can't remember the last Call of Duty campaign that got anywhere near 8 to 10 hours.
What would have been the last few?
Well, the last one was Modern Warfare 2, and that was also 5 or 6 hours long. And then we had, Black Ops 4 that didn't have a campaign at all. Yeah. Yep. So I didn't find the length of it, and maybe part of it, too, is that I was just ready for it to end when it ended.
How long to beat list Modern Warfare 2 is 8 hours.
For the last one?
The new one, the 2022 one. Yeah.
I mean, I finished it way less time than that. Like,
main story 8 hours, main plus side's 10.5, completion is 24. Although that's getting literally every single thing.
I couldn't imagine playing that campaign for 24 hours.
Yeah, I know. That might actually be I don't know if that's including multiplayer, but the campaign is listed as 8 hours.
Yeah. Even at 8 hours, I would never tell you to buy a game for $70.
I mean, that's about as long as I'd want it to be.
Yeah.
For any shooter, really. Like, that's about as long as shooting
campaign should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't finish this game, and I was like, oh, dang, that was like way too short. I didn't feel that way at all. There is another game that I played that we're going to talk about in a bit that I did feel that way about, only because I was enjoying it so much. I was disappointed when it ended. But this one, the 5 hours, like, I felt like it was pretty much perfect for what was being offered.
Black Ops 3, 9 hours. If you strive to see all aspects of the game, including multiplayer, you're likely to spend around 79 hours.
Wait, spend more than... How do they even calculate how long you're going to play multiplayer?
People report their time.
But so the 79 hours, like...
People, it's an average of people who said, I have 100% completion, here's my save time.
Gotcha.
And they kind of average out everybody.
What website is that?
Time to Beat.
No, I've been on that website before.
Which is usually pretty accurate. What's Infinite Warfare?
AJ the Legend asks, do you believe the devs who work on this franchise are finally getting burnt out and ready to move on? Well, here's the thing. There's
Most of the people haven't been doing it that long. Those teams have turned over probably three separate times.
There's like 4 different teams that work on these games, so they should not be getting tired of it. Like, there's turnover on those teams. A lot of people who work on Call of Duty end up getting much higher paying jobs working on games at other development studios. Because they figure once you've worked on a Call of Duty and you crank that out in a year's time, you probably know what you're doing. So the truth is, like, most of these people either have left at this point. Like, we didn't mention on GameFace, but Vanderhaar, who's the head of like Call of Duty multiplayer, he left like 3 or 4 months ago. Mm-hmm. That was a big deal. But most of those people have now moved on. You got Youngblood working on it, or you just have 4 or 5 different teams working on the game. So no, I don't think that their burnout really has anything to do with it. Yeah.
Most of the COD, especially the old ones, seem to be 6 to 7 hours.
Yeah.
Then they jumped up to 9 for a while, and now I guess they're going back down again.
Yeah.
But
again, as someone who's played every Call of Duty campaign, I didn't notice it as short. I was like, that seems about right to me. So, but again, a lot goes into that. It's like, how much fun are you having with the game? Did you want it to end? Did you need it to end? All that stuff plays into it. AJ also asked, do you believe Activision would ever put the single-player content for every Call of Duty into a single disc, like a story collection? Yeah. I mean...
Never.
Well, I think the thing is that, first of all, they're breaking the games up now. Like, you install the campaign separately. So they're already discrete pieces of code.
They'll never do that because they want you to have to buy the multiplayer to even get in.
What I was getting at...
The closest... I could see that
Pass.
maybe a year... I don't think they even do that.
Maybe.
They want you to have to spend that money.
I think they're going to put the campaigns up separately on Game Pass.
I would like that, but that seems too... I mean, I guess Activision is
they're already there.
Shots
they may not all of them, but like they started doing that, 4 entries ago, where they're separate, discrete files that play on their own.
That doesn't mean they're going to release them
So I think from then on, like they'll have just the campaign up on Game Pass.
I will be shocked if they do that.
How come?
Because it's more lucrative to just charge people if they want to touch the Call of Duty.
No, it's on Game Pass, though.
Right.
That doesn't matter.
It does matter, though.
You want it to be convenient as possible to get more people to subscribe. People don't have to slough through and download the whole thing.
But they're not doing that on the other platforms.
No, I'm just saying only on Game Pass. They would make the campaigns downloadable separately.
Well, yeah, because they're separate installs, I guess. Because otherwise you're installing 200 gigs of bullshit.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, you want to make it as easy as possible, as consumer-friendly as possible.
But they would never repackage the campaigns into their own
and sell
SKU.
it. No, but I think it would happen on Game Pass. I think you'll be able to play the campaigns without having to download the whole 200 gigabyte.
Yeah, well, you can already do that if you buy it.
You can. Nope. So I was hoping I could do that. Nope. When I downloaded the campaign for this, it made me download the whole damn suite. 180 gigs or whatever.
Well, that's because if you download the campaign separately, it's only 30 gigs.
Yeah.
It's so short.
I don't even think it'd be 30 gigs, honestly.
But they've done separate before.
Separate what?
Campaign and multiplayer. I had that on a couple of things.
As files, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, the last 4 entries have done that. That's what I was saying. And so I think on Game Pass, the last 4, and any going forward, you'll be able to just download the campaign and play it. Selling it as a package, I don't see that happening. Because there's too much money to be made.
I think that'll be on the same entry you click, though. I don't think there's going to be a separate campaign and multiplayer Game Pass window kind of thing.
The Abrams says, just in Nintendo is making a live-action Zelda movie.
Mm-hmm.
Sony Pictures and Nintendo co-financed. Why? I'm surprised they didn't just go with Universal again.
Well, if they want to make live action, you don't go with Universal for that.
Okay, that makes sense.
They already have a relationship with Sony because of, yeah. That's interesting. It's interesting. I knew there was a live action Zelda thing flying around town. I didn't know it was with Sony. That's
Or maybe they just signed it.
maybe. I guess that's. I was about to say that Sony would be my last pick if I wanted to work with a major
most people
studio.
would say that. Yeah.
But actually, Warner Brothers might be up there too. That's actually a 5-sided coin flip at this point.
Splitting hairs for the worst. Yeah.
I don't know.
One thing that I want to complain about with Modern Warfare 3 is for all the in-engine cutscenes, there is a white dot in the middle of the screen, like the aim dot. During the cutscenes, they do not turn off the aim dot. It is in the center of the screen for all the cutscenes. It's so dumb. And then, as I said, the ending is brutally abrupt and absurd. Like, they totally end. It's like the cheapest way to create a cliffhanger so that you stay tuned in for the next game. I thought that was really disappointing as well.
That's true. Rabelisk makes a good point. The campaign and the multiplayer share so many map textures, it probably would make no sense to split them up.
Yeah, but I mean, they do eventually.
But
like, they're
so
separate
huge.
files. Yeah.
Like, dedicating that much space, especially on a PS5, to this game, ridiculous.
It is. Yep, on that small hard drive. So
oddly, the longest single-player content in the history of the franchise is Black Ops 4.
4?
Because it's not a campaign, it's just single-player missions you can do. But to complete them all is 10.5 hours.
That's hilarious.
The longest actual campaign is Black Ops 3.
I thought it was 2.
9 hours.
I thought 2 was like 12 hours for some reason.
No.
So I remember I played it at the review event, and I remember like they gave us a whole day, and like I played from like 8 a.m. until like almost 10 p.m. at night before I finished it.
Black Ops 2 is 7 hours.
Interesting.
It is the 7th longest campaign.
Weird. Interesting. Okay.
The shortest being, but not including this one, because this article's too old for that.
No.
The shortest being Black Ops Cold War, which is 5.5 hours.
Yeah. So anyway, I guess what I would say ultimately is do not buy Modern Warfare 3 just for the campaign. If there's any of you left out there that would do that. If you are somebody who likes zombies and likes the multiplayer in Call of Duty, I think you'll play the campaign and you'll enjoy it just fine. I think you'll be like me. You'll be like, why are people freaking out over this? Like, it's not great, but it's not like terrible either. So I guess the way I view it is it's a nice add-on, a nice bonus for people who already want to play the multiplayer or the zombies. And don't forget, zombies also went open world for this version. So I'm actually very excited to check that out. Also a little bit scared now, having played the campaign.
That doesn't sound like a plus really after this.
So we'll see. We'll talk about that on next week's episode.
It seems like open world would lend itself better to the zombie idea.
Yeah.
But who knows what they're going to do.
I mean, I hope that there's like vehicles and you can like run over, like mow down like zombies with like a van or I don't know.
You're getting ambitious now.
I know. Or like straight out of Dawn of the Dead, chop off zombies' heads with like the helicopter blades on your choppers.
Now
and
you're off in crazy town. Like there's not that much effort isn't happening on this one.
Yeah. So
maybe
anyway,
one day.
I guess I would say like again, it appears that Call of Duty is only a buy or may only be a buy. I don't know yet. May only be a buy for people who are really into multiplayer and really into zombies. But we'll see. We'll talk about those two elements of the game in next week's episode. Next up, we're going to talk about a Switch exclusive. And that Switch exclusive is WarioWare Move It. Matt, it's only been 2 years since they released WarioWare Get It Together, which, if I remember correctly, I felt was one of the worst WarioWare games ever. Mm-hmm. It just felt like it had kind of lost the spark that had made it so memorable in the past. And I mean, a lot of it really does come down to like, how creative are the people making the mini games? Do they have a good writer? Do they have maybe a comedian working on the stuff with them? Because to me, that's what WarioWare is all about. These 5-second micro games where you see them, you have to register it very quickly and then figure out what to do. And sometimes you figure it out and sometimes you don't. And I think half of the fun is really failing. I realized while I was playing this that if you just had like an ISO camera on me, not even seeing what the game is doing, and you get one of those games where it flashes up and you don't know what to do, and very quickly your brain tries to like, it's very funny how, at least how I react. It's like this panic of like, try everything in like half a second. Like, it's very funny. And also I will say that this is the first time playing this, was the first time that my wife laughed at me playing video games in years. Because there's like, it's all motion controlled, and some of them are crazy. Like one of them is like you hike a football between your legs, and she walked into the room just as I was doing that in front of the TV. I'm sure it was hilarious. But anyway, what I was getting at is that I feel like the spark is back in this one. there are some mini games that literally made me laugh out loud. Like, there is one where it just has, like, a person standing on a dock, and they're standing on the dock, and fish are jumping between their legs, and you have to squeeze your legs and catch the fish. Like, there's just, it's WarioWare. Like,
yeah, but WarioWare to me is like, like agility based, like mini games with buttons, not like,
well, now it's with
dumb
motion
control crap. I've never liked the jump to that for this series. It's not something I'm interested in.
Well, in Get It Together,
I miss when they were video games. Basically.
Yeah. With Get It Together, the motion controls were abysmal. Mm-hmm. Like, they didn't work, and it kind of broke the game, honestly. Now I will say, the problems aren't completely gone in Move It, but they're better. And I will say this too: all the features that we saw when they unveiled the Joy-Con for the first time, and we were like, wow, and then like none of that stuff ever happened. It all happens here. Like, Matt, this even uses the IR camera on the Joy-Con, which most people, I think, don't even realize is there. It uses the camera, you point it at your hand and do hand gestures into the IR camera, and it can pick up the hand gestures. Like, that's some of the micro games that you play in this. So I felt like, one, it makes much better use of the Joy-Con functionality than it did before. And not only that, just the base motion controls work way better in this than they did in the last game. Now, they're not perfect. There are definitely mini games, micro games, that I failed in this because the motion controls just weren't good enough and it just didn't register the stuff quick enough or accurately enough. And it is frustrating. But here's the thing. It's very hard to become frustrated with this game because there's no fail state. So if you run out of lives or tries when you're going through a series of micro games, all that happens is they send you to a screen where you strike a pose and they let you start all over with a whole new set of lives. And so there's really not much consequence to this game as far as like winning or losing. Like, no matter what, you're going to get more lives. You're going to be able to try it again. And not only that, they don't even make you start the set of micro games over. After you strike the pose, you go back with a new set of lives, and you pick up at the same exact micro game that you last failed.
Wario has the exact same reaction I do to the Joy-Cons.
What? His face.
Very angry and threw them across the room.
Well, the plot of this game is, if it matters, is that Wario won a free vacation to an island paradise, and for him and all his friends, and he takes everybody there. And then once you get there, all the usual suspects: Ashley, Orbulon, Young Cricket, 9-Volt.
Why does he have friends?
I don't know, because he's such a jerk and a douche. Because he's rich, I think?
I guess.
I don't know. They're using him, I think, for his money. I don't know. Is he even rich? He's poor, I think. He's always trying to get rich.
Yeah, he loses all the money by the end of the games, really.
Yeah, it seems like that's how it always works out. So anyway, you have the usual characters that you know from this franchise, and they all have their own set of games. And the way the game works is that you have these poses that you have to learn. So when a set of micro games starts, they'll show you. So Choo Choo right there. I cut it out, but they have these long-winded explanations that tell you like how to use the pose. And then there's a second paragraph of definition that's just supposed to be funny. That's not funny. And you have to sit there and listen for another like 20 seconds to this inane copy that they wrote for the game. But anyway, every time you use a form for the first time, they teach you how to use it. And then after that, you just get that very quick window that pops up that says, now you're going to use Choo Choo. Now you're going to use Night Sword or whatever. There's like 20 different poses in the game. And it's very specific. Like, you have to make sure that like your dominant hand is on top if you're holding them like a sword. Like, it's very specific how you use the different forms. So when you first start, each set of micro games teaches you like 3 different forms. Roughly 2 or 3 different forms. So when you first start, there's only a handful of forms that you're using. By the time you get to the end of the game, you're using all 20 forms, and you have no idea which one's going to pop up. And like some of them require that you put the Joy-Con like on a flat surface, and so you're constantly like putting the Joy-Cons down, picking the Joy-Cons up, picking them up, and then getting into the sword pose. It's like, it's very frantic. Like, my heart rate actually got pretty high playing this, which was not the case with Get It Together. Like, the pace of this is enough that it gets your heart rate going. Like, if you're actually playing the games and as fast as they send them to you, you're not hitting pause. There's a little bit of exercise that you can get out of this. Not much. You're not going to lose weight playing this game, but it does get your heart rate going a little bit at least. The other thing, too, is that there's 200 micro games in the game total, which seems like a lot, but each one of them are like 5 seconds, so that number seems small very quickly. And as usual, the draw of the game is the wacky things that it asks you to do, but each one only lasts 5 seconds, so once you've played it once or twice, it's no longer really funny or fun. It's the same thing we've been dealing with WarioWare since it was first unveiled. It's very fun the first time you play it, not as fun in repeated playthroughs. Each minigame, like, there are some micro games in this, you will have no idea what to do the first time you play them. So there are some where, like, there is value in playing it the third or the fourth time. But once you learn how to get through all the micro games, they've kind of lost all their charm, unfortunately. But the good news is there is tons of extra content after you finish the campaign in this. Like, crazy, weird multiplayer modes. The other thing I would say, too, is, and I had to do this myself, is pull out your Joy-Con straps. You have to have them. Some of the forms are letting the Joy-Con dangle from your wrists. And so if you don't have the straps and you don't have those things attached to your Joy-Con that have the straps on them, you can't even complete some of the minigames at all. Same thing with, like, when you use the IR camera for some of them. Like, you have to, the IR camera is, like, has to be dangling. You have to put it in your other hand and then shine it on your hand. So you need those things. Some of you guys may have lost them. Like, I had to really dig around to find where I had put mine. I had completely forgotten. But you need them. You need to find them.
Yeah, I don't know where mine are.
Yeah.
Because I haven't used it handheld in forever.
Right.
They haven't been detached ever.
I think a lot of people maybe wondering where those are. You need them for this game. Just something to keep in mind if you don't know where yours are. But anyway, once you get through the main campaign, which literally took me like 2 hours to play through the whole campaign in this. So there's another case of, like, the money spent per the hours of entertainment, that quotient doesn't work out so well. But again, there are crazy multiplayer modes to play after this. There's a party mode where you choose from 20 different characters from the franchise, and then you assume forms and play like a weird, like, motion-controlled board game. It's almost like Mario Party. But you play it with motion controls. And there's a couple micro games that play like Mario Party as well in this. But you can play that with up to 4 players. There's also like a Squid Game like boss fight with Medusa that you play head-to-head against somebody else. And it's like, why I say it's like Squid Game is because it's the Medusa, when she turns to look at you, you have to stop. And then when she turns her back to you, you run towards her. And the first person to get to Medusa wins. But in the between, you're like having these weird like fights with micro games. It's bizarre. There's also another mode called Mega Game Muscles, where you do reps of micro games. It's supposed to be like the fitness mode or whatever, and it basically is just firing off micro games like machine gun fire, like 20 in a row in like 2 minutes or whatever. And that's supposed to get your heart rate up. Then there's 3 different 2-player modes that unlock after you complete the campaign. And those are all weird, crazy modes that are just like, a lot of thought went into the extra content in this instead of the main content, which is a little weird. But it's kind of understandable because, again, I finished the main campaign in 2 hours. So they're like, what are people going to spend the most time with in this game overall? It is going to be the multiplayer modes if they latch onto them. So I guess in some weird way, it kind of makes sense. I don't know. And that's it. That's pretty much the bulk of WarioWare Move It. Again, I think it is sort of a case study on the Joy-Con, that they can work in some situations pretty well. But again, it also proves to you that, like, even in a game that focuses 100% on Joy-Con motion controls, there are still issues. So I don't know if Nintendo has found a new way to make this tech work with the next Switch so that the motion controls are more reliable than they are. I don't know.
How dare you not roast the banana?
Yeah. I don't know, but this game I had fun with, but it lasted 2 hours. It's funny. Like, there's fun. Again, the spark is kind of back in this. Like, I didn't laugh hardly at all at WarioWare Move It. Or, I'm sorry, Get It Together. But this, I laughed over and over. Even my wife, who was sitting with her back turned to the game, kept turning around every once in a while and be like, what is going on over there? And she'd look at the screen and she'd be like, what is going on over there? This is the most weird thing I've ever seen. Even just listening to the audio, she was like, this is one of the weirdest games you've ever played. Just hearing the audio of the game. Because, they give you like the 1-word instruction for every micro game. Pull, push, grab, burn, clog, whatever. And so she was only hearing that stuff. Like, so I do feel like the creative spark is back. But to me, these games need to sell for like $20, $25. Like, selling them for like $50, $40, but it's too much. It's a 2-hour game, and again, like I said, once you've learned the micro games, you've pretty much squeezed all the enjoyment out of it. If you have kids, I think they probably will enjoy the multiplayer stuff. My wife and I, we didn't enjoy playing it all that much. Part of it was that she didn't get a lot of it, and it was hard for her to understand it. But even as someone who did get it and did understand it, like, I didn't find them to be all that engaging, but they will give the game at least some legs. So there you go. That's WarioWare Move It. It is a Switch exclusive, unsurprisingly. And again, it is very heavy on the motion controls, and you'll have to dig out the straps for your Joy-Con if you don't know where they are, which I didn't know where mine were. I did finally find them. And again, you need it, like, because they'll just throw a micro game in there where you need to let the Joy-Con dangle from your wrist, and if you don't have the straps, you can't complete the micro game. So definitely a requirement, but to me, this series is just way overpriced. Even though it does provide a different kind of entertainment from a lot of video games, it's not so much different that I'm willing to spend like $50 for 2 hours of fun. That's just too high of a quotient for me. Do you have any questions, Matt?
Nope.
No?
Pretty self-explanatory.
AJ the Legend asked, was I able to get my wife to play this? Yeah, she did. She was like, that is weird. That's weird, crazy. And I was like, why don't you play it with me? And she's like, okay. She played like 5 micro games, failed 3 of them, and was like, I'm good, basically. And I was like, no. Like, we need to try these multiplayer modes. And she suffered along with me on the multiplayer modes for a while. But to answer your question, is this a good family or friends party game if you had enough Joy-Cons? I think it would be. I think the average person who plays this will have a laugh at it. So it might be worth the purchase to keep around the crib in case people come over and you want to have fun. I could see that. It'll get laughs. It made me laugh over and over again. And I think people who don't know what this series is will probably laugh even harder at some of this stuff, because my wife was like, what the heck is this? This is so weird. I've never seen a game like this before. So I did enjoy my time with it. It just wasn't enough time. And for that much money, like, I needed more fun than that. Like, they need at least like 500 micro games per release. But when you're putting them out every 2 years, here, by the way, are the descriptions I was talking about. So at first, they just tell you how the stuff works. And then the second paragraph is just them trying to be funny. And you're like, just get on with it. Because the other tenet of this franchise, Matt, is its breakneck pace. It's like micro game after micro game, and it's just like, go, go, go. You got to be on your toes. You got to think really quickly. And this just drags the whole thing down, like watching these things. It's like, I get it. I'm letting the Joy-Con hang from my wrist. There's no way to skip them. There's no way to fast forward them. I just found them annoying. But again, I did have fun with it. I did get a lot of laughs out of this game, just not enough to rationalize the full price tag for it. Eve Demon says, if she thinks WarioWare is weird, you need to show her Katamari Damacy. I have. She doesn't think that's anywhere near as weird as this. And I don't think it is either. These games are weird. Like, what's that? Now you're a penguin. I mean, I don't know. The avant-garde nature of this franchise makes it unlike anything else, I think. It's like you flip the pancake. Oh, there's a face on the pancake. Like, I don't know who it is that works on all these micro games that manages to find an edge for each one of them, but they're pretty damn good at it. So, I liked it. If you could ever find it for cheap later on down the road, which we know almost never happens with Nintendo's first-party games, but if you do find it for cheaper on down the road, I do think it is a good choice if you have people over, or if you have a bunch of young kids. They'll probably get a kick out of this and have a ton of fun with it, and the multiplayer modes, whereas I think adults, maybe the mileage won't be quite as extensive. But I did have fun with it, but again, full price, not going to happen. Times Emmy says there's that Pigeon Rhythm Battle Royale game for something weird. I'm not familiar with that.
I don't know.
I do remember that one Pigeon game, though.
It was the Pigeon dating sim.
Yeah, that was weird. What was that called?
Hatoful Boyfriend.
Hatoful Boyfriend, yeah. That was weird, for sure. But I think Times Emmy's talking about something else. Vincent asked, now that the team has given us 2 WarioWares, can we have a new Rhythm Heaven? I would prefer at this point, I guess I'll put it to you this way. Rhythm Heaven is more worth the asking money than WarioWare is. I mean, you get a little bit more time out of it. And Vincent says it's a Fall Guys game, but a rhythm game. Oh, he's talking about Headbangers Rhythm Royale. It's on Game Pass. Yeah. That also is a little weird, for sure. But anyway, there you go. That's WarioWare Move It. It's Switch exclusive. And now we have no more lower thirds for the live show. But next, we're going to talk about a game we discussed, about a month ago? It's been about a month, I think. So we talked about it.
Like 3 weeks, maybe.
Yeah. We're going to talk about RoboCop Rogue City. Now, if you remember, I did play the demo, which ended up being like 3 hours long or whatever. However, I have not played the final version, but Matt has. So I think maybe what everybody wants to know, I think maybe people were surprised that we were so positive on the game in the first place when we talked about it last time. Because I was. I was surprised how positive I was on the game. I think what most people are maybe wondering at this point is, does it hold? Does it stay exciting and engaging throughout the entire course of the game? Does it have new stuff in the game later on? How does that all work out?
Yeah, I mean, it unfolds more or less the way you would expect one of these things to. Like, you go to new locations, you have to solve new problems. There's a lot of other enemy types, more than you would think. They keep introducing new enemy types, and then of course you head to a 9, and like the stakes definitely go up as time goes on. The second major area you go to is actually not like the first major area. It's about the same size, I would say, but it's all hostile.
What do you mean by all hostile?
As in, it's a bad guy location.
So if you're out in the streets,
there is no street.
Oh, there's no street.
It's basically you're like a mill.
Okay.
And I believe it's actually the place he gets killed in RoboCop 1.
Oh.
There's a little flashback moment.
Interesting.
So you're running around and you're trying to find where these guys are hiding out. So like at different points, like they'll flood in from different places, or like you'll open a door and suddenly there's guys in there and stuff. So you're kind of being bounced around through the area, and like new areas open up. And there's some places there's places where you can like find secrets, or there's schematics you can find that tell you how to activate certain things in the train yard, and that'll open new areas you can go to. So it still has that element of like, oh, there's things to find and stuff to do, but it doesn't repeat itself in that regard. Like, and then you will go back to the streets later on, and you can issue more parking tickets or whatever you want. But like,
so wait, does that street area that was in the demo, is that always there?
No.
Okay, so that was just like there just for those missions.
You can, I think, eventually go back. I don't know if you can go back. Actually, I think you should do. They do tell you to get everything done before you leave. So the demo is basically just that area. Then you go back to the police station. There's a whole section there. You have to have a therapy session with the doctor, and your choices there really determine how RoboCop sees himself, which is interesting.
Yeah, psychology was one of the abilities that you can boost.
Yeah, you can get an ability later in the game if you boost one of them up enough that'll highlight the best choice in the dialogue for each interaction. Which I never bothered to get because I have other things to do.
Like be alive.
Yeah, and I will note that like this dude doesn't really matter.
Oh, he
like,
doesn't.
He's set up as a major thing, but he's not a major thing.
Oh,
the major thing is the new guy.
Oh.
Whose identity is revealed at the
end. Who they
end.
talk about through the whole demo, the new guy.
Whose identity is revealed at the end of the streets section when you finish the mission to find this guy.
Oh, interesting.
And there's he is connected to the RoboCop mythos.
Okay.
If you want to call it that.
Yeah. So does the gameplay loop stay the same? You go out and do a mission, then you come back to the police station, you debrief, you do the psychology thing, you boost your abilities, and then you get in the car and drive to a new location. And
sorta. I mean, you can always boost your abilities.
Always, you can.
Yeah.
You don't have to. You have to do it at the police station.
No.
Okay.
You can always spend the skill points.
Okay.
And then it does unlock when you go back to the station after the streets area. It unlocks. Basically programming boards for the AIM-9 pistol.
Okay.
So you get these. It's a weird system. So those OCP containers. Sometimes you'll pick them up in the demo, and you'll get 15% whatever, like 13% bypass whatever, and you're like, what the hell is that? Like, you don't see it in the inventory thing. So when you get the programming boards for the AIM-9 pistol, you'll start picking those up, and what it is you have different ones you can install. There's a tutorial one, and then there's like other ones you find in the world, and you can basically boost the AIM-9 to be more powerful. You can have it more stopping power, more pushback, more damage, faster reload, larger clip.
Okay.
And the balance on this is like it's laid out like a not a grid, but like there's entry locations with like connector wires, and the things you picked up that say 15%, 12%, whatever, those are things you can plug into those nodes, and there's different configurations of the things you pick up. Some have 2 outputs, some have all 4, some have 3. You know, so it's kind of like Tetris. It's like 4 ends, and so those ends will pass power through those lines. And so if you power up a node that has like a weapon damage icon, you get more weapon damage. The trick is there are other nodes that are -5 and -10%, and if you accidentally route power to them in your configuration, you're losing 10% ability on all your abilities.
Oh, wow.
So you have to basically get the right plugins that don't send power to the areas where those negatives are, but you can activate all the positive power-ups.
Okay, gotcha.
And you can combine them and like randomly sort of like, basically you sort of breed them. Like you take 3 you don't need, put them together, and you'll get like a random result that has like sort of a combination of their traits and might be a little more powerful. So that is a way to kind of, if the pistol has felt a little underpowered, which it doesn't. Like the pistol.
No, the pistol is like my favorite weapon in this. But now mows people down.
But I've got like it powered up to like 50% extra weapon damage. So basically, things go down in one shot.
I bet. Very satisfying. Like aiming at like the upper chest, having the gun rise up to the head and getting that snap with
and then
the headshot.
The other thing is ripping turret. There's like gun emplacement turrets. Ripping those off and carrying those around and using those as handheld weapons. Those are very strong too.
Yeah.
I keep one of those in the back pocket as well. And there's like, you can get grenade launchers, rocket launcher. Like the weapons do vary out a lot. There's a bunch of different enemies that show up even in that first, like that next open area. Like there's guys that call in reinforcements if you don't kill them in time. There's guys that like run at you with explosives, and if you don't shoot the explosive and blow them up in time, they suicide bomb you. You got guys with grenade launchers. They're just launching triple grenades at you while everybody's... I mean, it does get harder.
It's intense.
You do want to climb up the vitality bar a little bit and get the ability to carry more OCP repair kits, and get the ability to recharge him on the power boxes. Life does become an issue.
So the game gets challenging eventually.
Yeah, I haven't died yet, but like they stop treating you with kid gloves, and he's not invincible. Especially up against high explosives. There's like landmines in place. Like you'll end up like you end up in some surprising situations that you were definitely, like, RoboCop was definitely not built to handle. Yeah, but you can get through it. And it does stay pretty fun. It does get repetitive, I think, but the story is pretty interesting. The psychological examination of who he is and what he needs to decide about who he is psychologically is interesting, and doesn't actually ignore the character development from RoboCop 1 and 2, which is nice.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, even in the demo, you got those vibes, though. Yeah. Because they start talking about how, like, the public can't trust him because they feel like he's glitching out or whatever. And
yeah, I mean, they still have that. And, like, the glitching out is related to the new guy. Like, there's something going on that he has the ability to cause that, and you don't know why.
Interesting.
And there's a bunch of, like, so there's that, and of course you get to choose, like, there's, in the therapy sessions and a couple other things, you get to decide, like, whether you want to be called RoboCop or Alex Murphy. No. Or things like that, and so they are, delving into that more than I expected them to.
Yeah, I never would have guessed this game would touch on that stuff at all.
I mean, it is, I mean,
seriously.
It is it remembers that RoboCop is a satire, and it remembers that RoboCop is cyberpunk. Yeah. Like it's a weird version of cyberpunk because you're a cop, but in a weird way that maybe only 1987 could have produced. The cops are kind of punk because they're trying to do the right thing despite being owned by a megacorp. Right. Like OCP,
they're rebelling, basically.
OCP is the establishment. The Detroit PD kind of isn't, because they're being hamstrung from doing the right thing and even helping people when they want to. Mm-hmm. So it's like it's a rare moment where I think making the cops like, the good guys and trying to do the right thing actually kind of sells it, because OCP is so much worse. Right. Yeah. So they really get it. They really get the tone right. They really get. There's even like a whole thing like the new enemies you're fighting are the vultures, and they're
Is there another gang?
They're different. Several different gangs, and these guys are bikers. They run in with bikes, and like bikes are a problem.
Like
and,
motorcycles.
Yeah.
Wow.
But the cool thing is you can just grab them off the motorcycle.
Oh, really?
Like they get close
That's
enough to
awesome.
you. You just grab them off the motorcycle and throw them at the next guy, and they all blow up. And like,
oh, that's awesome.
you can pick the motorcycle up and throw it at the next guy.
Wow.
So there's the picking, grabbing, and throwing really does stay a thing.
Yeah.
Through the whole situation. You can pick up.
I wasn't doing that much.
You can pick up
the
these
demo.
giant sledgehammers and just throw them into guys and stuff. It's
oh, wow.
The gore remains pretty standard through the whole thing.
Standard by meaning
by RoboCop standards.
Gratuitous.
Oh yeah, there's blood everywhere. You can shoot people in the dick, and they will react accordingly.
Well, the lower third for this did say it's a glitch.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, you have to wait for the archive to see that. But
yeah, there's actually an achievement for shooting a guy in the dick.
Oh, really?
And credit where credit is due. When you load up the save from the demo does continue on.
Oh, good.
In the final game, and you get all the achievements you would have gotten.
Oh, cool.
From that
They
save.
all pop as soon as you start. That's sweet.
No, they all pop about 10 minutes later.
Oh.
But they did pop.
But they did.
Yeah. So overall, like.
Does it hold up? So we were really high on it after the demo. Does it maintain?
I haven't finished it, but it's maintaining.
That's
like,
great.
It's still fun. Like it doesn't really get more than, it doesn't add on more than like what you're seeing here on a baseline degree. Mm-hmm. But what you're trying to deal with changes to an admiral. I never, like, by the time I was halfway through the vulture section, I was like, this is really different from what I was doing in the streets because they are such different enemies. Mm-hmm. And they're not like, it's not like you're the difference between fighting like elites and grunts in Halo or something, or like the Prometheans or whatever. It's not that different. But like, you have to use slightly different tactics and you feel more under threat as the game goes on. And then like you've got, early on in that section, there's people talking about how an Ed 209 is in the area, and you're like, oh shit, like this is going to be a problem. And sure enough, that is a problem. You don't want to
fight one.
Fighting them, and like I wouldn't be surprised if they get into more cyborg stuff or something like hardware later on. We'll see what they do. Mm-hmm. They've done a good job so far of kind of continuing to escalate it. And this is actually, again, much like with the Call of Duty thing, it's like. It seems like you jump from the police station to sort of mildly open, largish areas where you have to complete a bunch of objectives, and sometimes it's more like kind of like go do side quests like the streets, and sometimes it's more this is a giant hostile area you have to navigate through, but there's secrets and things to find. Yeah, and that's a nice balance. It's real good. Like it's like most of the reviews are giving it kind of 7s and 8s, and that feels about where it should land. It's by far the best RoboCop game ever made.
7 or 8. It's like a godsend.
I would argue that it's probably the best RoboCop game that could be made.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what else you do.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could do a full open world where you can drive the car anywhere you want, but like,
does that really add much to it?
Not really.
Probably not. Yeah.
So like, yeah, it's solid. I mean, this team, they also did Terminator Resistance, which just got like a new next gen version, I think on PS5 or something. Mm-hmm. I think it was already out on some platform, but came out on the rest of the platforms like at the end of October, which also was like better than it should have been. Like Terminator Resistance is also a surprisingly good game. Yeah, considering how the quality of the other Terminator games.
Now this is running on Unreal Engine 5, right?
Yeah.
One of the few games still at this point that's running on Unreal Engine 5. Looks good. Does it ever get outside? Is there combat outside?
Yeah, the steel mill you're in is mostly outside. It's fairly outside.
Okay.
I mean, the streets are outside.
Yeah, but I felt like that area with the streets was just like this area they just put in there as like a diversion.
There's never any big open wide vistas. You're never going to see anything out of like Immortals of Avium or anything, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, I was just asking if there's more like outdoor open areas with areas that you can see further than like 50 feet, basically.
Yeah, I mean, like it's not common, but there's like a thing in the steel mill. There's a train yard, and if you activate one of the locomotives, it activates and busts down a bunch of doors, and it goes down about half a mile. You can walk all the way down there, and it does actually show the detail because like the thing that it shows like a thing fall from the ceiling and land on top of the engine, which is your signal that you can get up there if you climb the engine. So it does show that to you from a pretty fair distance away. Okay. But as always, Unreal is not the greatest at long distance stuff. It does have tons of texture pop in and high res pop like between shots. Like wow. I mean it's that classic Unreal like how is this still a problem this
after all this
years
time
later?
In Unreal Engine 5, why is it still a problem?
It's just it's like of all the things I was gonna, if I were to make Unreal Engine 5, if it was one thing I'd be working on fixing first, it would be that texture res pop in problem, and that is all over the place in this game. I mean, part of that is because I'm playing it at such a high resolution with everything turned to ultra, but like it should be able to handle that on that.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I have more than enough VRAM to handle that. It's just not loading it in fast enough. And sometimes the crazy thing is sometimes it's like during conversational scenes, you're cutting back and forth between two characters, and they're like the cops' uniforms are popping their name badge in to be and it's like, you just showed him like 10 seconds ago. Why is it
just
not
leave that
still
character
there?
loaded into the cache.
I don't know how that works. I don't know anything about how that kind of
this is where our knowledge of game development runs aground.
Like, whatever it is, it's inherent to the Unreal stuff and has been. I mean, that's the same shit you're seeing in Mass Effect 1 back in the day. So that is an issue. Otherwise, it runs pretty well outside of, again, some weird artifacting around some. I think that's related to the DLSS stuff.
We're seeing that a lot now.
Yeah, like people get those weird transparent halos, where they don't. That seems to happen a lot. But overall, it works pretty well. It goes from like moments of looking amazing to moments of like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Like,
I even noticed that in the demo, honestly.
Yeah, that stays pretty consistent. And there's moments where like it looks really cool, and there's moments where you're just like, oh my god, you think that's what a tomato is? Like, it's like,
We have a couple questions in the comments. Silk Snake asks, any opinion on the music?
Music's very good.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually legitimately love the sad piano version of the RoboCop theme that plays on the title screen. Like that was the first thing that clued me in that this might be something special. It was like, oh, you not only remember the original RoboCop theme, but you got the tone on.
You made a good version of it.
Yeah, it was. So that was cool. That was very cool. And it has that kind of that 80s sort of action thing going when it does stuff like that, and it's sort of there's an eeriness to it, but also it has like a bunch of original music, like weird punk stuff, like the when you finally track down that punk guy who's on the TV at the beginning, he's singing a punk show down in this, like, you have to track him down to this basement, and it's this awful song, and he can't sing, but it is a full band playing it.
Wow.
And you have to walk through the crowd as RoboCop, and he's like, "Oh, look who's here!" and then he drops the microphone, and like the quality of his voice sounds different because he's no longer amplified. And then like if you take him back through that room later, you have to carry him out of the building because you arrest him, and you carry him out, and as he's walking through the room, like the quality of the sound of his voice changes as he's yelling at you because you're in a bigger room.
Right,
so there's some pretty cool audio tricks. And like when you go to fight the Vulture guys, they're playing like really obnoxious like metal, like new metal shit through PA system, and you don't have to. It's not an objective, but you can shoot the PA speakers if you don't want to have to listen to that crap because it's modulated super loud, even by the standards of the game. So it's gonna be uncomfortable. It's at an uncomfortable volume compared to the rest of the game's audio, so it's encouraging you in a subtle way to like just shoot the speakers off.
What about the detective stuff? Does that continue throughout the game?
It does. Yeah, it keeps going. You're picking all that up, and you have to kind of solve like I don't know if you did the arcade section in the streets.
Arcade section in
in the arcade. You have to figure out where the secret doors are. And there's an extra stash you can find. That continues all the way through.
Okay.
It never gets particularly like even when you get to the steel mill, there's nobody there. And you're still looking for this missing cop who's like part of a side quest in the streets. And you talk to his wife and basically say you're going to try to find him, and nobody knows where he went and all this stuff. And you go and basically you find that his car is there, and you analyze the car, and you find blood trails, and you can follow the blood trail right into that's where you get ambushed by the motorcycles for the first time. Because they did something with this guy, and you don't know what yet. But yeah, you are using the detective stuff, I'd say, is about as involved and prominent as, say, like the detective stuff in Arkham City. Okay. It's like it's they use it to sort of push the plot forward because he's a cop and trying to solve the mystery, but it's not really a focus. Yeah. It never gets more. You never have to like solve any real puzzles, I would say. Okay. There's things where like you'll find like if you find a safe with a combination that you can, if you have engineering 2 or electronics 2 or something, you can just pull it open and hack it. But if you find a safe with a combination, the combination is somewhere in the area. You just have to find the note or the email or something with it on, and then you can go automatically. But like
not painted on the wall like Alan Wake 2.
No, not quite that obvious. But they are in places that make sense to keep something like that. Yeah. Or if you need to activate something if you follow wiring back to where the wiring goes to, you'll probably find the button that turns. It does make some spatial sense.
Okay.
It's a very pleasant game. Like
pleasant with your exploding heads.
Yeah. Well, it just does everything fine. It does everything pretty well.
Yeah.
It's just kind of nice to play. I like RoboCop. I like RoboCop, Terminator, Predator, and Aliens properties are kind of those 4 R-rated sci-fi things of my childhood.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see RoboCop. I mean, RoboCop feels like he lends himself to the FPS the easy, and people tried it before and it didn't work too well.
Yeah.
It worked out pretty well. I hope like this team kind of came out of nowhere for me because they've been around for a long time, but mostly they've done, frankly, shovelware and ports and mobile stuff, and all of a sudden they did Terminator Resistance, which was like pretty good. It was like
not terrible.
No, it was like this is good. It's all right. Like this is pretty good. Like and it gets. Again, music sort of picks up some of the music, whatever they could license, I guess, and like it does get what makes Terminator Terminator, and this gets what makes RoboCop RoboCop, and I'm like, what other licenses could we throw at these guys? Because they really seem to know how to capture the IP they're working with
essence,
in a way that feels increasingly rare. Maybe we could throw them a fucking Marvel game,
right? Seriously though,
like what do these guys think the Avengers should do? Really,
right.
or Superman.
Yeah,
these two games. This game kind of spins silver out of straw, not gold necessarily, because there's only so far I think you can take RoboCop as a character in terms of what he could do in a game. I mean, he can't even jump. Right? He doesn't take fall damage though, which is fun. There's a lot of times where you got guys down there and you can't do an Assassin's Creed thing where you can just drop down and everyone's like, holy shit, and it takes you a while to get back up, but it takes them that long to recover from the fact that a 500-pound cyborg just dropped in the middle of them.
Yeah. How much does this cost? I've never checked because $50.
Yeah.
And how long have you played it at this point? Do you know?
Oh, I can't remember because I leave it paused for a while and come back. So my Steam play
10 hours, 15 hours,
probably less than 10.
Yeah. Does it feel like it's wrapping up or
no? I feel like I'm maybe halfway through.
So it's a pretty good value proposition.
Yeah, judging by how slow the upgrading is going on those trees, when you come back from a mission from from an area, and you get plugged back into your maintenance bay,
the police station,
it does go through and rate you on all the side quests you completed, all the evidence you picked up, and you get more XP on top of what you've already gotten for that as bonuses for that. And so you'll usually get 3, 4, 5 skill points when you get back to base from everything you've done out in the field in the meantime. So that does bump it, but the upgrade goes pretty slow. So there's a fair amount of meat in there, I think.
Okay. So it seems like a pretty good value then.
Yeah, unless they're leaning hard on New Game Plus or something.
Yeah.
I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah.
I'd like to see these guys get a little more...
Cinetype says throw them Die Hard.
That's an option. Yeah, that's something.
Rosencrans, always wanted to ask you guys, before I begin on Cyberpunk 2077 playthrough, do you recommend finishing off the base game before starting on Phantom Liberty? Oh. No. You don't have to.
No, I would say it plays better if you do Phantom Liberty kind of in the middle.
Okay. I finished the campaign and then played Phantom Liberty, so
you can do either. I mean, mechanically, but narratively, I think it works better in kind of in the mid to late part of V's story. Once V has some reputation, because everybody kind of knows who she is in that. Certainly enough that the president knows who she is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would. Especially if you haven't played it before or you've only played the original version, they changed the way it plays and everything so much that I think it's worth playing a new game of it if you have the time. And by the time the Phantom Liberty stuff opens up when you finish the Evelyn branch of the main quest. So there's at a certain point there's 3 different paths you can kind of take. You can figure out what happened to Evelyn. You can go help Takamura. And you can do something else, another thing I can't remember. But there's 3 kind of choices of what you can kind of do. Maybe I'm just thinking of going to Jackie's ofrenda and stuff or that kind of thing. But
point being though, it really, as long as you're halfway through the game, you're good.
Yeah. But I would think the best experience would be to go through and have it kind of in the middle of everything.
Okay. Silk Snake, who by the way worked on this game, says that it was supposed to be full price, but the team fought hard to get the price lower. I'm surprised that the development team convinced the publisher to sell it for cheaper. That doesn't happen very often.
To be fair, I don't know who the publisher is. It's the thing kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Remember when it was announced, nobody even knew it existed.
I mean, I saw it. I literally thought it was one of the worst video games I had ever seen. That first trailer, it looked so bad. He walked into a room and people were like, RoboCop! And then they're like, their little pistols trying to shoot RoboCop. It's like, that's not going to work, bro. Like, you need to run. Like
Nacon, that's who. I don't think Nacon, you can probably outmaneuver Nacon in the negotiating room, right?
Maybe. Yeah. So
I mean, certainly the only reason we've said that name this year.
Yeah. So that's, you recommend that people get.
Yeah. If you like RoboCop, it's absolutely I mean, this is the best RoboCop game ever, and will probably remain the best RoboCop game ever. Forever, unless they make another one. Unless these guys make another one.
I mean, I could make that determination even off the 3 hours I spent with the demo. Like,
also, like, if you're one of the people that complains about there's no B-list games, like everything's a AAA thing, or like this is it,
and this is one worth supporting.
Yeah, this is a good one.
Yeah.
This is like kind of those Capcom games nobody talks about anymore on the PS2, like Shadow of Rome.
Yeah,
where it was just like, oh, that was really cool. Nobody remembers it.
Yeah,
it wasn't like a big hit.
Asura's Wrath is one of them.
Yeah,
that was one of them. It was like one of those games that I'll never forget, but nobody else remembers.
Mm-hmm.
It's so weird.
Yeah, it's solid, and so is Terminator Resistance. Both of these, and I wish Schreier or somebody should like profile these guys, because who are they? Like, where'd they come from? Like, all of a sudden, it's like, why are you guys so good at this?
Yeah,
like, you know,
kind of crazy.
Like, I want to know more about the people who made this game.
Well, best of luck to you, Schneeky, and the team. I hope the game does very well for you. Just being completely editorially across the board honest, like, it's a good game. So. Yeah. Congratulations, first of all, on finally nailing RoboCop. Mm-hmm. It's been 20, 30 years in the making for this to happen. So I liked it based upon the demo I played. I played 3 hours of it. Matt's played 10 or whatever.
Yeah. It's the first RoboCop game I've liked since the original Data East arcade game.
Oh, wow. Data East.
Remember that?
Oh, yeah. Just that company. Do they even exist anymore?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No.
Yep.
Drop it.
Yeah. There you go. So there you go. That is RoboCop Rogue City. That's 2 thumbs up from GameFace. You probably could have figured that out from our impressions of the demo like a month ago. We both really liked it.
But it maintains.
Yeah. Matt now has played more, and he says it holds up throughout the course of the game. So go and get it. Next up, I told you we had 5 games today, people. Next up, we're going to talk about a game that I wish I had not played. And I can't remember the last time I said that about a video game, and particularly about a driving game. And that game is EA Sports WRC. Some of you may be Game Pass subscribers, and you may have opened up Game Pass, and you may have seen that there is a free trial of this game available. If you are Game Pass, I guess, Ultimate, then you get access to some of EA's games.
Yeah. You get EA Play, added on, basically.
Yep. And this game is on EA Play. As you can see, it's kind of dirty how they put the watermark on the game to show that it's like an EA Play trial. Why would you do that?
It's EA.
That makes no sense to me whatsoever. It's like a scarlet letter that you're putting on people, like if they play the game as a demo instead of playing it after they paid for it. Well, I can tell you this much. After you play this free taste or whatever, you won't want another taste, because this is literally one of the worst games I have played in a really long time. Matt, to our point, talking about Unreal Engine earlier, and we're not going to talk about this game very long, so don't, it's going to take like 10 minutes to talk about this, so don't run off being like, oh, I don't want to hear about WRC. It's not going to last very long. There's not a lot to say about it. But I wanted to give this game a try because I'm not a big F1 fan, and really the only games we've seen from Codemasters since it was purchased by EA is the F1 games. And I have been a huge fan of Cody's rally games in the past. Going all the way back to, you remember Rally Sport Challenge?
Oh, yeah.
That was what, Xbox 360?
Yeah. Rally Sport Challenge 2, I remember, was like a big graphical showcase.
Yeah, they were great. And I love the Dirt franchise, which are their other rally racing games. So I thought this game was a shoo-in, that I was going to love this game. And going back to what Matt and I were talking about with RoboCop and Unreal Engine, for whatever reason, Codemasters decided to change engines for this and start using Unreal Engine on this game, and it is a complete disaster.
Yeah, I don't know why you'd want to use Unreal Engine for fast streaming of terrain.
So, again, your point earlier about how details drawing in, I mean, almost hilarious how bad the stuff draws in on this game. Like, first of all. Second of all, this game is dead. It's like you're driving through these like rural locations. There is nothing going on. There are no animals. There are no people. One thing that's cool about rally racing, real rally racing, is how insane the fans are. How they will stand on the corners of these dirt roads as these cars go like 150 miles an hour past them, like sliding. That's lost in this. There's no crowds. There's no animals out in the... There's nothing. It's just you on this track with nothing moving. You gotta remember, this is also rally racing, so you're not normally racing against other cars. It's all time trial stuff. You're trying to create the best time through the stages or whatever. So you don't get a lot of interaction with other cars. But again, I played a lot of rally games. I was totally cool with that. In this one, because the rest of the game isn't all that exciting, it almost feels like a deal breaker in a lot of ways. Now, this game is technically the newest version of Colin McRae Rally. Now, he passed away, right, Matt?
Yeah.
And so I wondered, I'm like, what are they going to do? They've had this franchise all this time. They changed it into WRC. It has actually been WRC now for a couple entries. The difference between WRC or Colin McRae and Codemaster's other rally games is that this typically is the more rigid simulation, the more realistic take. The other games are a little more arcadey, and they're easier to handle. This one is like insane as far as realism is concerned. And if you're into that kind of thing, like, this might be an okay choice for you until you start playing it. And that's when the rubber hits the road in all the worst ways. Rally racing in general...
There isn't even a road.
Right. Well, here's the thing about rally racing is that, like, you're going down these very narrow dirt roads. Literally just wide enough for your car and not two cars. And if you make one mistake and your tire catches the berm or it hits a dirt clot on the side of the road, you go flying off of the road, you go flipping down like the hill. Like, you cannot make a single mistake in this, really. Now, I will say this. The times that you need to make are pretty generous. Even if you're playing it on the default difficulty setting, like, one thing I found about this game is you need to go way slower than you think you need to go. Like, you'll watch this B-roll, and you'll be like, oh my god, look how slow Shane is going through this. And then you'll see that I won the race by, like, literally 30 seconds. So the first thing that I needed to get over is, like, you don't go as fast in this as you think that you should. And that's good, because if you go fast in this game, that's when it all falls apart. So if you start going fast in this game and you come up over a hill and you can see a big chunk of the track or the terrain ahead of you, the game just stops. It doesn't stutter, Matt. It stops.
Well, also, the other thing is, like, you're in a camera angle that makes you look like you're going slower.
You think the angle has something to do with it?
Fisheye or more first person definitely makes you think you're going faster.
Yeah.
Because you're going like 70 kilometers per hour there. That's not
well,
nothing.
they're saying that I am.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it at all.
Because of the camera.
Maybe.
Like if you put down on the bumper, you'd feel like you were going faster.
I mean, I'm sure. But, you know, Matt, I play tons of driving games with this same camera angle.
Well, yeah, but this camera angle is not fisheyed, is what I'm saying. It's like a lot of third-person camera angles in racing games could give you a better sense of speed, but they're not doing that here. I'm not sure why.
The end result is that it seems slow AF.
Probably because they're trying to give you the sim ability so you have a better way to judge how fast you're going. Because that actually does look about as fast as you're going if you're looking at a car from behind and not watching it pass you.
Yeah.
To sim, it's not particularly exciting.
Well, you can see inside there, like, all the driver and the co-pilot are all modeled and fully animated in there. You can see him driving, shifting gears, and all that stuff, regardless of what view you're playing the game from. So that's nice little details that are in there. There are 200 stages in the game.
Not much of a trade-off for pausing over hills, though.
Yeah, so to get back to what I was saying, this game literally stops and then starts. And if it's not doing that, the screen starts tearing, literally in half. It's the worst screen tearing I have seen in a game in like 15 years. I'm not exaggerating. You don't see games with VSync tearing issues like this game has anymore. You just don't. You don't see games where the engine just chokes. Again, if you're going at any rate of speed and you can see this much terrain out in front of you, it just starts hitching. And the problem is, some games that may not be a big deal. But again, in this game, you make one slight mistake and your race is ruined. And these races are crazy long. Like, each stage is like 8 to 10 minutes long. Now again, They are a little generous. Like, you can wipe out once or twice maybe and still finish okay. Any more than that, you're not gonna, though. And again, the technical issues with the graphics in this game are so bad, it affects the gameplay. It will make you fail races, which is inexcusable in 2023 that any game engine would do that. There's 70 different rally cars. If you've already seen from the B-roll, they go all the way back to like the 60s, which if you're a big rally guy or girl, that's pretty cool.
That's another reason why you feel like you're going slow, is you're in an ancient car.
You're an old car, yeah. But not always. Like, eventually I get like state-of-the-art cars. And then that presents a whole other set of issues because you're going way faster and it's almost impossible to stay on the road. So there are 70 different cars that go all the way back into like the 50s and 60s. And the cars do generally look pretty good. It's probably the graphical highlight of the game. However, like, cars don't get mud on them. They'll have mud on them after the race is over. They'll show your car in the garage all beat up and dented and everything. But while you're playing it, like, it doesn't get any mud on the car at all. It's bizarre. And then you'll finish the race and it'll be caked with mud. It's like, where was that in real time when the game was actually being played? After every race, if you have damage, you hire a crew. You have 4 slots for your crew, and you have, like, I don't know, 20 or 30 people who are actually on your staff, and then you choose from those 20 or 30 the 4 that are actually going to work for you on that race. And in between each legs of an event, your car is damaged. You need to pay to get it fixed, basically. And
seems like a bad time to do this.
Yeah. I mean, so I didn't leave.
These people standing in the complete pitch darkness waiting for a car to drive by them.
This B-roll doesn't last very long on this because it's annoying just to watch. Imagine racing in this, where if you make one mistake, the race is over, and the tracks are barely wide enough for your car.
Do they do that?
Yeah.
Night races?
Oh, yeah.
Rally?
Rally racing, Matt, is insane. I have a ton of respect for rally racers, man. Like, they put their balls on the line with every turn. Like, and you see the fans standing on these turns while they're power sliding like 150 miles an hour across gravel. Like, not just the drivers, the fans are also insane for rally racing. I have a ton of respect for both of them, honestly. But I don't feel like this game portrays that, like, at all. Like, there's no sense of danger because it doesn't feel like you're going very fast, and there's no obstacles, and there's no people. Like, I don't know. If for a rally simulation, I don't feel like it simulates rally all that well. So there are 70 real cars, but you can also build your own from scratch, from the chassis up. Like, literally, part by part, you can build cars in this, which I think is something that fans of rally will probably also appreciate. However, like, the paint and the wraps and all the cosmetic stuff in this is horrible, first of all. The options are crazy limited. But 2, they look terrible on the cars themselves when you do them yourself. So that's one element of driving games that a lot of people like in modern driving games that is not handled very well here. And when you start the career, you can choose from WRC, WRC2, or Junior WRC, depending on your skill level. But I'll be honest with you, I jumped straight to the real WRC. I had no problems. Like, I was finishing first or second pretty much in every event. So I would recommend, if you do play this, to just jump to the main class if you can. And then the handling is all over the place. Like I said, one slight tip of the stick in the wrong direction and your rear end starts spinning out behind you, and you have to start oversteering to try to and it's just over. Like, if your ass in starts swinging out in this, it's over. Because if you make a swing 1 or 2 feet either way, you're off the road, and you're off the road, and you're out of the race. And it takes forever to get back on the track. You get, like, crazy, like, 20-some second penalties sometimes for going off the track. Like, the game doesn't measure those very well either. As far as, like, the grip and the feel of the game, I think it's terrible. Like, I feel like everything in this game, except for on tarmac, dirt, snow, it feels like you're racing on roller skates. Like, you just have to be so gentle with the stick on any turn. But then you get a car on tarmac like this, and it's like it's on rails. Like, no matter every little tip of the stick, like, it swerves to the side. Like, again, I finished fine. I was, like, winning the career mode in this in first place almost every stinking time. It just feels bad. The handling feels bad, in my opinion. I didn't think it felt good, whether I was off-road or whether I was on the tarmac on a paved road. I just thought it felt bad no matter what. What else? The races are really long. They're 10 minutes apiece. They're like 30 kilometers long.
Marshall is bold. I have to say.
What is?
Marshall just standing in the road.
Oh, yeah. Wait, yeah, you're supposed to stop before you run into him or whatever. The tracks in this are at least double the length of the average track in the Dirt franchise. And I know a lot of you guys have played it. It's been on Game Pass, and it's been offered for free with Xbox Live Gold here and there. Most people have played Dirt. The tracks are double the length of Dirt, and Dirt's tracks are already pretty long. I already talked about the performance, the screen tearing, the engine buckling. Honestly, it makes the game a complete deal breaker, Matt. Because if you make one mistake, it fails a race. You can't have a game that stutters and buckles when that's the case. Like, it just can't happen. The rain and the water effects in this are laughably bad. Like, you go through like a stream, and it's like this white wall that just like goes out in front of your car. As I said, the tracks feel dead. It's just you and the track. There's never anyone or anything out on the tracks. Nothing's happening off the track. As I said, there's damage, and the damage will affect the handling of the cars as well, which is annoying. Like, there was one, again, these races are so long, I had wrecked really bad, and for the next 5 minutes, I had to hold left the whole time because the car was pulling to the right. I don't know. Again, I haven't played a game with this many faults in a really long time, and particularly a driving game. It's really hard to make a driving game with this many issues in 2023, but somehow Codemasters managed to do it. This game is a mess. I'm shocked that they released it. I'm not shocked that they're giving away like a free 5-hour preview, because I feel like otherwise no one's going to buy this game, because I did read like a review or two. I couldn't believe how generous they were to this game. A couple of the reviews that were out there, I was like, whoa, okay. So EA Sports WRC getting off on the exact wrong foot for all of Codemasters rally racing games, because it has like 3 franchises. This is kind of its wheelhouse. So I was really disappointed in this game. I did play it on Xbox Series X, so I cannot say for sure that if you play it on PlayStation 5 or PC that it runs like it does on Xbox Series X, but on Xbox Series X it ran like trash.
These days it usually runs worse on PC at launch.
Sometimes, yeah. But it's Codemasters, and Codemasters has a pretty good reputation on PC generally.
Yeah, there's only so much you can do with Unreal 5.
Yeah, it's true.
It's weird how everything kind of has the same problems.
It is. I saw someone in chat was like, what's up with Unreal? Like, it is kind of Unreal. Like, for whatever reason, developers can't get their head around it. AJ asked for no rewind feature. No, there's no rewind feature.
Yeah, I think the Forza rewind feature should be standard in all racing games.
It probably should be. Especially in something like this, where literally the track is just as wide as your car, and if your tire goes off-road, you fly off the track.
Like, obviously let the purists turn it off, but like
make it an option.
Yeah, if I want to just not have to redo a giant, 10-minute race,
I should be allowed to do that.
Me.
Yeah.
Put a giant asterisk next to my times. I don't care.
Yeah. Feels like Rolling Roller Skate says usually realistic. Seems like Shane is not used to these kinds of games. I am, dude. I already said that I love their rally racing games. I have played Rally Sport Challenge 1, 2, and 3. I have played Dirt, all of them. I've played all their rally racing games.
Yeah, but all the games you're listing are arcadey more than the WRC ones.
Well, he's saying these types of games. This is the only one. There is no other one. This is it. Like,
are there no Dirts anymore?
Yeah, but as you said, they're arcade style. I'm saying this is the only rigid simulation rally racing franchise of theirs. Like, all the other ones are more arcadey. Because obviously for reasons that we just found by playing this game. So it's a shame like that EA spent like, what was it, 1.2 billion or something for Codemasters.
I don't know.
It was something outrageous.
I'm pretty sure this wasn't the make or break game for them.
No, I mean F1 is their recurring franchise. That's money in the bank every year. And then their rally games come out once every couple years. But
and Dirt is really their bread and butter on that.
It is. Dirt is their rally racing franchise that sells the best because, to your point, it is more user-friendly. But I have played the living crap out of every rally racing franchise. I played Colin McRae Rally back in the day before he passed, and they changed it to WRC. That has nothing to do with it. And I have driven cars on dirt roads. It's not like driving on roller skates. Cars still grip dirt roads. Cars still grip in the snow. Like, literally, playing this game felt like, we talked about it a couple weeks ago, those old handheld games where you had a car and a little steering wheel, and there was a piece of paper that, like, and it just feels like you're just turning that car on that piece of paper, and it doesn't matter what's on the piece of paper. The car is just going to do whatever the wheel tells it. That's what it feels like playing this game. I did not feel like the cars felt attached to the track at all.
Have there been other Unreal 5 driving games?
I think this is the only one. The only one that I'm aware of, anyway.
I'll be curious to see how
how
the feel stacks up in future Unreal 5 racing games.
Well, right now there's only 6 Unreal Engine 5 games on the market, something like that. There's not that many.
Maybe a little more. I don't know. What that RoboCop, Revenant 2,
Lords of the Fallen.
There's another one I'm forgetting. The shootery thing.
Not many.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes so far. But I don't think this is Unreal Engine 5 even. I think this is Unreal 4. They just switched to Unreal for this game where they had been using their own, I believe, their own proprietary engine before this. And I think if there was a quote where the reason they went to Unreal was because they wanted to be able to draw further vistas than their engine would allow. And what happens in this game when it crashes almost? It just slows down to like a crawl. So EA Sports WRC, stay far, far away. I would not recommend anybody buy this because you can't. It's broken. It's irrevocably broken. Like, you can't finish some races. It stutters and you fly off the track and you fail the race. Like, if you want to keep doing that, be my guest. Beat your head against that wall. For me, no thank you. EA Sports WRC, huge thumbs down from GameFace. All right. Our final game of GameFace episode 365 is a good game, and a game that I enjoyed a lot, and one that I'm disappointed that Matt has not got a chance to play yet, and that is a game called Jusant. I think I'm saying that correctly. I'm not 100% sure, but you'll remember it as soon as I show it to you right now. It is a climbing game, and it's not a climbing game like Assassin's Creed where you just hold the stick in the direction of the wall and they just scramble up the wall. This is like a climbing simulation. I believe probably the closest you can get to a climbing simulation that's not VR. Because VR does climbing very, very well. But this one does it pretty well. The first thing I would say is this game gives me vibes of a lot of other games. It gives me a little bit of an Eco vibe. One, because the character kind of looks like the character from Eco, but he's also mute. He doesn't talk. So you have to learn everything by grunts and facial expressions and hand gestures.
Although Eco does talk.
Yeah, you're right. He does.
He just doesn't speak English.
Right. He speaks a gibberish. This guy doesn't talk at all. And he has that little thing in his backpack that helps him climb. It helps set like his grapple points for him throughout the course of the game. So it also gives me some Journey vibes as well. Because there's no overt storytelling in this at all. You have to uncover what's happening in this game by picking up pieces of paper that have been left around. So what has happened is civilization has been wiped out by the Jusant. That's where the name of the game comes from. And you play as a young climber, and you're carrying an infant ballast. That's what that little thing is in your backpack. And it has the ability to restore water to wastelands that have been dehydrated by the Jusant, the world-ending event, which is said it's French for receding tide. That's what the developer said anyway. But anyway, there's no overt storytelling. So you're trying to figure out what happened to this society. Why did it go away? Why did everybody disappear? What was the cataclysm that caused everybody to disappear? And again, you use the letters that you find that kind of spell out the story for you. Now, even then, they leave a lot of things ambiguous, and I think that's on purpose. I think they want you to kind of fill in a little bit of the blanks yourself. But it does give you a general framework of what happened to this society before you show up. So as you can see, it appears that this is set on Earth because it has all these old elements of Earth life. There's boats, there's children's toys, there's like textile stuff, there's kitchens for people to make food in. And there's another way that you can learn through the lore by using these magical seashells. You can listen to like an oral history of some of the stuff that happened in the past via that vehicle. So yeah, I would compare this to like Abzu, Journey. It's an open-ended exploration-focused game that's set in this weird like world that's mysterious that you're trying to figure out the truth behind, basically. Now, once you get to the actual climbing, it's handled pretty well. So basically, the right trigger is your right hand, the left trigger is your left hand, and you alternate right trigger, left trigger to climb up rock faces. Now, as you're doing that, you can steer, obviously. You also have a rope attached to you, and at certain points, you can use the ballast to create these hook points, basically. So if you do fall, you'll only fall back to your last hook point, essentially. But you never die in this game. I don't think there is death in this game. Or no, I did fall one time, and it just reset me to where I fell off of the cliff. So there's really no death. There's no lives in it. Again, very much like Abzu or a Journey-style game. And you use the 2 shoulder buttons to scale. And generally, once you get the hang of it, it feels really good, man. Like, once you get the timing of the left, right, left, right, left, right. And then once you get where you're moving sideways, you have to be a little more deliberate when you're using each one of the shoulder buttons to climb. You have to make sure you're paying attention to, like, which hand is grabbing, which one is not. And as long as you're grabbing with one hand, you can click the left analog stick down, and that will let you rest. Because you do have a stamina meter in this, which I typically hate in games, but it's very generous. And even if you do fall, again, you only fall to your last hook point. And then the R1 and L1, they let you, like, either extend the rope or climb up the rope. So at any time, you can be hanging, you can hit the right shoulder button and he'll just descend down. Or you can hit the left shoulder button and he'll ascend up. And a lot of the game is using those physics. So at first, it's very straightforward. You're just climbing like vertical walls or whatever. But eventually, you get to a point where you're attached to the rope and you're like swinging. So you have to swing to reach some platforms. You also have to run like horizontally along walls. Like you're running along the wall and getting momentum going back and forth until you create like an arc. Until you get high enough to reach some platforms. Eventually, it really gives the game, the game's physics a workout. You can do other things too. Like you can have the rope extended. And then you can go over like a bar or something like that. And the rope will actually lap over the bar and create a new hook point without making the hook point. And then all the physics take over from that new hook point. So the amount of work that went into the physics of the rope and the climbing and the inertia of the climber, all that stuff is like next level stuff that I haven't seen in a video game before. Also, some other controls that you have, like once you swing up and you grab onto a ledge, you have to hit the A button to actually pull yourself up, because they want you to be able to dangle if you want to shimmy along ledges before pulling yourself up. So it's very essential that that's there. So you're seeing like the rope is attached to those like modules or whatever in the walls. You can hit the B button to detach that at any time if you want. And if you were to do that and detach the rope entirely and then let go of either one of your hands, you will fall. You will fall down, but you don't die. You just respawn where you were last or whatever. But this game really has free climbing physics and mechanics. And there are times, like for me, some of the puzzles in this were figuring out like how to use the climbing mechanics to get where I needed to go. And so it's not just straightforward. You're like, oh, I just need to keep climbing up the wall. No, it gets very tricky. Like eventually they'll put like borders in between you, and you need to figure out how to get over that border to get to the next area on the other side of the wall, or the post is sticking out of the side of the wall. And that's where things start to get a little bit tricky. What else can I say? As I said, there's no death in the game. You can climb back up or release rope anytime you want to drop down. And the rope is really long. So I could like just let go right now and fall down. And the rope feels like it's like 200 yards long. And eventually that's where a lot of the puzzle platforming starts to come into play. Like you think you always need to go up, but eventually you start to realize that from certain hook points, you need to go down. And like way down sometimes to find like a hole in the side of the wall or whatever. And then you go into the wall, and then you realize that your climb is actually up inside after you go into the wall. So you really have to consider like 360 degrees of whatever. Now, the big mystery in this whole game is like, why? What's at the top of the tower? If I get to the top of the tower, is that going to explain like what happened, why civilization was wiped out? That's the mystery that keeps you going. But it doesn't need to keep you going all that long. This game took me, I think, 3 hours maybe to finish. I basically did it in one sitting. I sat down, I started playing it, I got up, I ate lunch, I sat back down, and it was done. So it's not a particularly long game. And it's on Game Pass, I should mention. It is available for pretty much every platform, if I remember correctly. I wish the lower third was there because I had it in there. But but it is on Game Pass. And so if you want to give it a try for minimal risk, it's a good place to do it. And I have a feeling if you do that, you'll get hooked on it and you'll finish it just like I did. Like, I just started it and I was like, I want to check this out to see the mechanics, the climbing mechanics, because they should be something new. And it turns out they were, and I got hooked into the world. I got hooked into the flimsy story, and most importantly, I got hooked into the climbing mechanics and had a ton of fun with this game. Do you have any questions about this game, Matt?
No, I mean, I was interested in this because I follow whatever Don't Nod does, but I completely didn't realize it came out, and I completely forgot that the Don't Nod climbing game was called Jusant, because that's not a word that means anything to me.
They made it up to describe whatever the cataclysm is that ended the world, basically, in the game. Really what this game does that I admire about it the most is it just cuts out all the clutter and the BS that's in a lot of modern games. It's like there's no skill trees, there's no item durability, all the minutia and like the little stuff that are in games now that a lot of cases make games good, in some cases make games really freaking annoying. This game has cut it all out. It is literally just the essence. Climb to the top. That's it. Here's the tools. They don't change much throughout the course of the game. Learn how to use them better and get better at the game and keep climbing up, and hopefully you solve the mystery. That's all this game is. The story, it gives you as much as you take away from it. Like, I don't usually read stuff in games, but in this I did, because the game itself isn't telling you what's going on. So I did find myself reading the pages that I discovered around the worlds or whatever. And again, it allows you to get as much or as little out of the story as you want. So I had a ton of fun with Jusant. Again, it's not very long. It's not a big commitment. It is on Game Pass. So if you're a Game Pass subscriber, you can play it for 4 pennies or whatever each game costs on Game Pass per month. And I do recommend it. I do recommend it to people, too, who are interested in making games. Because here is a brand new control scheme that has not been seen in any games before. It shows you that there is always innovation. You can always innovate in art. No matter how you think things are rote, things have just all become the same, you can always innovate and do things differently and do things better. And I think that's what Jusant proves. So if you're an aspiring game developer, I highly recommend giving this game a play, just to see what's possible when somebody opens their mind and doesn't dedicate $150 million to a project. Because stuff like this is way too risky for big budget AAA games these days. So that, to me, this is why these smaller games exist. To try out new ideas like this, see if they work. And I will be interested to see what they do with the sequel to this, Matt. If Don't Nod is like, okay, proof of concept, nailed it, now let's blow this out into a full-fledged game. I don't know if that works within the context of the plot and the way the story's told, but I do believe that Don't Nod will try. Because this game, regardless of whether it sells or not, or whether people like it or not, this game is a success. To be able to create something like this from scratch that no one else has done or even really tried to do, it's impressive. So props to Don't Nod. I did enjoy it. It's called Jusant. Whether you're an Xbox owner, a PlayStation owner, or a PC player, you can play it. I don't think it's on Switch. Probably will be eventually. This isn't all that demanding. It should be able to run on Switch if they work on it a little bit. So I think it probably will be there eventually, but I had a lot of fun with it. It's unique. It's unlike anything that I've ever played before, and I definitely recommend it. Vincent says, I doubt it gets a sequel. I don't know why he's saying that, but... and he said it didn't click for him. Not, sir. Thank you for Twitch Prime. I'll say this. When I got to the first part of the game, where I had to actually think about things and had to actually figure out, like, how can I use the mechanics that I've been given to get around this area that it seems like they won't work for, I did get a little frustrated, and I almost quit. I tried like a couple different things. It didn't work. And I was like, oh, okay, I see. This game's kind of annoying. And then I figured out how to get around it, and it was smooth sailing from there. So even if you do hit a couple, it's new. Anytime you have something new like this, it's going to take a little while to get your head around it, to try to figure out what the game's doing, what it's asking you to do, what's possible with the mechanics that they give you and the physics that they give you, all that kind of stuff. So I can kind of understand where Vincent's like, it isn't clicking. Vincent, I would say go back and give it another chance. Because, again, there's nothing else like it, and ultimately they do nail it. They do nail the concept and the ideas and the physics and the mechanics. So I'm a fan of Jusant. Just the game of the year for best indie game this year is going to be impossible. Like, I have a hot list of like 5 or 6 games already that are like, I'm going to have to decide between. So this is another one. This is, if I had to pick 5 nominees for indie game of the year, this would be one of them so far. So And again, you got to remember, I'm a gameplay first guy. So games like this are going to resonate with me, games that try something new and do something new in the gameplay department. So anyway, there you go. That's Jusant. I don't want to spend that much time on it. Our last game on GameFace is always kind of like a little experimental game that we try out. We want to turn you guys on to see if you guys want to give it a go, and that's exactly what Jusant is.
Don't forget, Baldur's Gate 3, technically indie.
Yeah.
Independently funded.
Yeah. Even though it was $200 million.
They're a very successful independent game company.
Yeah. So anyway, there you go. That's the bulk of the show for GameFace episode 365. Let's see where we're at with... Oh, we got time for Name That Game today. That is great. But before we do that, let's hear a word from our sponsor, SoundWizardry.com. Experience the realm of extraordinary audio with Sound Wizardry. With a decade-long journey in sound design, we animate your movies and video games with the breath of sound. Our wide-ranging services include sound design, Foley, sound mixing and mastering, audio implementation, dialogue mastering, and the crafting of unique sound effects from freshly recorded material. Our portfolio contains Baldur's Gate 3, Steven Universe, Alan Wake 2, Gwent, Cyberpunk 2077, and more. Visit SoundWizardry.com and let us transmute your vision into an auditory marvel. One thing I'll say I'm proud of with SIFTD is how the site and our content tends to gather developers. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, we have a lot of developers that follow our shows or on the website. SoundWizardry.com obviously is another one. Look at the stuff that they've worked on. They've worked on a couple Game of the Year contenders. I can't wait to see what they work on next. But we've got Sound Wizardry working on Baldur's Gate 3 and Alan Wake 2. We've got Sneaky, who is working on RoboCop. We had another person in our chat a couple episodes ago that worked on RoboCop, right?
There's another RoboCop person in there.
Yeah, so it's an honor that people who make games gravitate to our content. That is probably one of the best compliments that I feel like somebody can pay me in our content. So thanks to SoundWizardry.com. Again, if you have any audio needs at all, hit them up. If you are a developer that watches GameFace either live or in the archives, or you're a patron or whatever, and you have a project coming up, hit up SoundWizardry.com. Obviously, they can deliver the goods, or they wouldn't be working on games like Alan Wake 2 and Baldur's Gate 3. So thanks again for your sponsorship. Thanks for our sponsorship from Ellis Cream as well. Without them, this doesn't happen. We appreciate our sponsors very, very much. And now, it's time for... That's right, people. It's time for Name That Game, where I show you screenshots from a video game and you try to guess the name of the game before Matt Kyle. Couple things before we get going. There are prizes for this. If you win, you get a free PC game. If you do not play PC games or would have no use for a PC game code, please do not play. Let somebody win it who will actually use the code and play it. Number 2, the chat goes into slow-mo mode, which means that you can only put in one chat thing every 60 seconds. So don't spam the chat with just random game titles, because you'll get screwed. I'm just telling you right now. I think it just happened like the last time we played it. Mm-hmm. That's right. That actually happened to somebody. And then the final thing is, if you've already won this year, do not play. You can only win once per calendar year. So if you won at any point in 2023, just stay out of it, kick your feet up, and maybe start thinking about your question for Q&A, which we'll try to get to after we're done with Name That Game. Matt, are you ready?
Sure.
This one, I think...
I'm ready to watch the chat know what grass is from what game again.
That's pretty much what this is, yep. I have a feeling this one will be guessed by the second screenshot, but we'll see. I've been wrong before. All right, you guys ready? Here we go. Name that game. Image number 1.
Deadly Premonition.
Nope. I'm showing you the tree, though. Trees tend to give it away. It happened in, 2 weeks ago with Firewatch. The trees gave it away. Mm-hmm. Or no, that was Life is Strange, I think, or something. Yeah. The Witcher 3, no. Resident Evil 4, no. 2 Witcher 3s. That tree must really look like a Witcher tree. Alan Wake, no, but I can see where you might think I would do that. Resident Evil 7, no. Got any more guesses? RE4, no. Witcher 3. Lost so many Witcher 3s. Wow.
To be the Witcher 3. That the stone wall in the back and the right looks very familiar, but I can't place it.
Spider-Man PS4, no. Silent Hill 2, no. Any more guesses from you guys? What I'm figuring out, Matt, is a lot of people don't guess on the first image anymore because they're afraid the second one's going to come up that'll be more obvious and they won't be able to put their guess in. Okay, it looks like that's it. All right, here comes image number 2. Go! I mean, that should give it away. Someone's going to get it from this, I think. We'll see.
I can't even read it.
Any guesses? Do you have any? Skyrim? No. Mafia 2? No. That's a good guess.
Dishonored.
Not Dishonored. Last of Us? No. More Witcher 3. Deadly Premonition? No.
That was my guess.
No. Life is Strange? No. Homefront Revolution? No. Interesting. Pulled one out of the archives. That's a random guess right there. Homefront Revolution. Remember that game sold like crazy, but it was like terrible?
Yeah. And then like later it turned out it had like one of the time splitters hidden in it.
Yeah, that's right. Red Dead Redemption 2, no. Resident Evil 2 Remake, no. Bioshock 2, no. All right, I think we're going to make it to the third image. Here we go. Here is image number 3. Mega Drive Guy, thank you for Twitch Prime. And thanks for the hype train, everybody. LA Noir, no. That's a pretty good guess, though. Uncharted 4, no. I can see why you think the map on the TV might be Uncharted, but it's not. Mafia 2, someone else guessed that already, no. No guesses, Matt?
No, I don't recognize that.
Okay. Wow. Okay, it looks like we're going to go to the fourth image. There's no guesses coming in here. All right. Here, this one is definitely going to give it away, so be ready, everybody. Here's the fourth image in 3, 2, 1, go. GTA 5, no. Wow, I can't believe there aren't guesses flooding in at this point. Fallout 4, no. Stanley Parable, no. my grandma's house from Call of Duty 1. Wow, look at the 3 Evil Withins. No, not Evil Within, but all 3 of you thought it was. Oh, we have a winner. There it is. May be one. It is Heavy Rain. Congratulations.
Block that game out of my brain.
This shot is so iconic.
If you say so.
You don't remember that?
No.
Wasn't it his house that had that?
Maybe. I don't remember anything about this game except Sean.
I bet you remember this.
And Jason.
The 5th screenshot.
Yeah, I remember that.
The mall. Yeah.
The mall where he loses the kid.
Mega Drive Guy says, I knew it from the tree, but I couldn't say it. Thank you, by the way, for not ruining the game for everybody else, Mega Drive Guy, because I believe you've already won this year. So, great job, man. I'm glad somebody got started to get worried there. I'm like, dang, is nobody going to get this? It's crazy. So, Mazzo Ren, congratulations once again. Here's another round of applause because you did an awesome job. And you get a free game. And to collect your free game from me, you can DM us right here at twitch.tv/SIFTDGames, or you can DM me on Twitter. I'm at Dinfire. Or you can DM Sifted on Twitter at SIFTDGames. Or if you're on Sifted, and you better be, you can DM me where I am at Shane. Hit me up at any of those places, and I'll get your code out to you right away. Congratulations once again for winning Name That Game. We'll be back next week for another chance for all of you to win a free PC game. All right. Let me scroll up real quick here. Make sure I didn't miss any of the Twitch Primes late in the show. Mega Drive Guy, I got you already. Anybody else jump in here late? Ready Rock Steady, thank you for subscribing at Tier 1, man. That's awesome. We appreciate it. Mazzo Ren, look, he subscribed with Twitch Prime, and not 2 minutes later, he wins a free PC game. That's awesome. That's great. Not Cirque, I already thanked you. Anybody else get in here at the end? Doesn't look like it. Okay, let's see if you guys have any questions for us. We have about 5 minutes to answer questions before we have to get out of here. Justin Horman, how are you feeling about the PS5 Slim pricing? The digital edition is more expensive now, and the drive attachment is pricey on its own, $80 USD. Does the ability to upgrade to be able to use discs make it worth it? For me, it would be. I don't think for Matt it would be, though.
No.
I still buy all physical, but Matt doesn't. So I think it just depends on you. Like, or do you buy physical or do you buy digital? Yeah. And I think if you do buy...
You've never stuck a disc in your PlayStation 5, that would...
Yeah, why would you need it?
Yeah.
But I do think that if you are a physical buyer, it's worth $80, absolutely. Like, yeah. Like, if you buy one game or two games and you play them and then you sell them, you got your $80 back. Like, it's a no-brainer. So, yeah, I would buy the drive if I were you, if you're interested in physical games, absolutely. It'll be worth every penny very quickly. Cinetyke says, I played Heavy Rain and didn't recognize any of that except them all. Interesting. Grimshaw Rocks. Victor Lucas, our good friend Victor. If you guys remember him from Extended Play and Electric Playground on G4.
Electric Playground, not Extended Play.
Oh, right. Electric Playground. And then Reviews on the Run was kind of the spin-off name in Canada, right, for the show?
I mean, that was always kind of called that, and then it became that after it left G4 for a while. Now it's EP Live or whatever.
Good dude. Victor
I mean,
is
it's really
good
just different names for the same shows running continuously since like 1997.
Yeah.
So
he's managed to squeeze that out somehow. Victor
Canadian
Lucas,
grants.
Victor Lucas says Alan Wake 2 is a masterpiece in his new video. Would you collaborate with him on a video? What? I don't understand what that means.
I wouldn't mind working with Victor on something.
I mean, we love Victor. We'll work on him with anything. What does it have to do with
what he thinks of Alan Wake 2?
Okay. Next.
No, Alan Wake 2 is not a masterpiece. Jail, Victor Lucas. Jail for 1,000 years. I don't know.
From Vincent, do you think the triple WoW expansion announcement is Blizzard trying to commit to something big before major change, like Ubisoft announcing Beyond Good and Evil 2 before the possible buyout? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, it probably is them trying to like show like we're not going away. We don't plan to kill the game just because Microsoft bought us. So there's probably some of that there, but it's certainly not what Ubisoft was doing with BG&E 2, which, as I understand it, is yet dead once again. But like, if it was ever alive, you know.
I think what you're seeing and what you're going to continue seeing is the various parts of Activision Blizzard trying to rationalize their value after the purchase. Mm-hmm. Like, they're like, look, Microsoft just bought us, and now here comes 3 expansions for World of Warcraft. Like, I think we're going to see a lot of this type of stuff. And a lot of it is like pie in the sky. It's like, when are we going to actually see that 3rd expansion? In like 5 years, probably? Like, a lot of it is just like, this is what we're going to be doing for the next 5 years now that we've been purchased. I think we're going to see more of that from the other studios that were bought in that acquisition.
Some of that. I think a lot of this is just trying to soothe the WoW subscribers into not panicking and thinking that their game might go away.
Right. It'll be interesting to see if they do put it up on Game Pass. So if you subscribe for Game Pass, you get World of Warcraft. Like, that's a big X factor.
That doesn't feel like a big X factor to me. It feels like a pretty definitely not going to happen.
You don't think it's going to happen? Pachter does.
I don't. I think Pachter thinks a lot of things are going to happen.
But see, I kind of agree with them, though, because it doesn't matter anymore how much money they make from WoW subscriptions. What matters, according to Microsoft, is how many people subscribe to Game Pass.
Yeah, but you still gotta have a positive cash flow to keep that thing going. It's like an MMO isn't like, oh, you release it and whatever you do with it is free money after that. Like, WoW is an ongoing machine that needs to be fed.
But I think that Microsoft's perspective is like, it doesn't matter what you give us the $15 per month for. You can say to yourself, this is for World of Warcraft, but they don't care. They'll just give you the rest of Game Pass for the $15.
I don't think corporations are structured that way, really. Like, even back in the day, like, you have to get money from this for that. Like, you know, Lucasfilm can't use money on this and make it up with Marvel sales like that. I think Activision's going to stay its own kind of department, and World of Warcraft's going to have to justify its existence on its own terms. And I could see maybe doing some kind of Game Pass related trial, like you get to play for 2 weeks free or something with Game Pass once if you've never played it before. I do not think they will do that.
We'll see. It'll be interesting to watch.
I think World of Warcraft will remain its own separate subscription.
ETH Demon, given all the Game Press layoffs, do you think the future of games coverage is small group solo patrons? It is. We're there.
I think that's the present of it.
I mean, I think
it has been for a while.
I think people don't understand it the way that I do, because I curate every day. I see every piece of content that every website publishes, and I can just tell you right now, that it is bad. Like, half of the content that comes into our admin now, not half, it's probably 30%, is IGN. It just is. IGN is a machine. It does all the stuff that the small guys wish they could do, but they don't have the finances and the bandwidth to do it. And then, if the little guys do manage to find something that they've created that's original, IGN just steals it. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. I see it over and over again. Perfect example, GameSpot's expert series, where they have a weapons expert come on and say, this gun in Call of Duty feels accurate or it doesn't. Now IGN stole that whole idea, and now they're doing expert shit. Like,
To be fair, GameSpot got that from other YouTube channels anyway. There's no original ideas left.
To be fair, everybody stole everything from game trailers back in the day, if you really want to get to the nitty-gritty of it. But the fact of the matter is like, IGN is just taking over. All the little guys are running out of money. They can't produce content. No one can compete with IGN, not even GameSpot at this point. Like, they are just, IGN is a snowball rolling downhill, and it's just rolling over all the little guys. So yes, I mean, it's already here. It's not even that it's the future. It's now. Now coverage is about small groups, small Patreons, solos, whatever. That's just what it is.
G4 didn't steal anything from game trailers because we couldn't afford to do any of that shit.
Yeah. Let's see. We'll answer one more. Let's see. There's so many. We can't answer them all. I'm sorry, guys. Listaved, the owner of LS Cream, will answer his question because he supports us big time. Are you excited for the Marvels, Matt? We kind of talked about it last week, but...
No, because I've talked to too many people who worked on it.
No, really?
Like, I've seen it already. Like, it's not great, and it sucks because I like all three of those characters, and I would be excited for it, but I've heard too much negative stuff from people, and I think... I think staring down the barrel of a $40 million opening weekend, which is less than Flash, it really suffers. It suffered from kind of the less excitement for Marvel over the course of sort of like some lackluster stuff. Ant-Man did some damage. Guardians still obviously did well, but people care about those characters. The problem here is Captain Marvel 1 made like a $1.1 billion. So people were super ready. I mean, that was also because it was in the middle of the Infinity War Endgame hype cycle. Mm-hmm. But, the reason Guardians did well is people are invested in those characters. People care about Rocket Raccoon and Gamora and Drax and everyone. They want to see what happens. How can you be invested in Captain Marvel when she's been in maybe 6 minutes total screen time since her movie?
That's true.
They haven't done anything with her. Yeah. You've got, and then Monica, also cool, love Photon, but she was in WandaVision mostly. Like, her from the first movie, but she's powered up because of the WandaVision thing, which is and then Kamala, who's great, is from Ms. Marvel is a good show. But again, the problem with branching into TV like this is hundreds of thousands of people watch the TV shows. Millions of people watch the movies. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure there's going to be a quick, 10-minute recap. These people have never met each other.
People aren't going to know what's going on.
Two of them haven't met Ms. Marvel before, so there's going to be a quick recap of who these people are. But people have been seeing this, and there's a lot of FUD being spread on Twitter about nobody knows who these people are. But a lot of it is just there's no investment in the characters because there's not a widespread audience that has seen Monica and Kamala. And Carol has been a non-entity in the MCU since her movie came out. Yeah. In the meantime, Guardians worked because people are still invested in Guardians. It is the shortest Marvel Cinematic Universe movie of all time. So
are you going to go see it in the theater still?
Yeah, I have tickets for Thursday. But if you look at our showing, which is a big, usually a big
smattering of people.
No, there's it's the smallest crowd I've ever seen for an opening night screening of a big comic book movie, and that includes Flash.
Wow.
Flash was pretty empty.
It's not encouraging.
I haven't seen a opening night Hollywood screening of a major a big action movie kind of thing this empty since Uncharted.
Wow.
And Uncharted was us and 10 other people in the whole theater, and this looks to be about the same. And and it's also hurt by the strike. I think if you had all three of the actresses doing press and having clips from different shows popping up on you don't realize how loud the machine is until it's turned off. And there was just no way to get this movie into the zeitgeist and kind of create those moments. You have Tom Holland and Zendaya being cute together was like a lot, helped No Way Home a lot. That's helped those Spider-Man movies a lot. And you don't have that because of the strike. And the Marvels is essentially being sent to die at this point. But actually, I mean, I'm kind of checked out of the Marvel stuff just because it's been so aimless.
I'm out. I don't care about it at all anymore, really.
And I care. I like to see it come back.
I would too.
I hope Cap 4 is good. Like I like those I like those characters. I just don't. It just doesn't feel like they're doing anything with anything anymore. I haven't even watched Loki season 2 yet, and I liked Loki season 1 a lot.
Yeah. I didn't feel like it's burnout. It was just too much. Like, it was just too much Marvel in a short period of time, and they had a great
it wasn't too
series
much,
of films.
It wasn't too much Marvel. It was not good enough Marvel. That's the problem.
I'm kind of burnt out on superhero stuff. I'm just being honest. Like,
I mean, you can say that whatever you want. What I'm saying is, if it all been as good as that last third of the Infinity Saga, no one would have a problem.
But see, it takes the build up, though, Matt. You can't just flip the switch and all of a sudden shit's that good. Like, you have to build it through all the films.
I'm not talking about build up. I'm talking about quality. You can make a really good, engaging first act of another big story. They didn't do that. None of these films connect to each other anymore. Yeah. Like, what does Eternals have to do with anything? Are we ever going to see Harry Styles show up again? Like, who knows? Like,
but see, when I first started watching the first Marvel movies, I had no inkling that they were going to all connect together and there was going to be this gigantic war at the end. Like, I was just watching the movies. Right, that's what I'm saying.
But like what I'm saying is,
it can happen organically. Like,
but it doesn't matter organically. You can construct a 3-act structure of an epic saga to follow up the Thanos stuff, and they didn't do that.
Yeah, we got to go. We're way over time.
Like they dropped the ball. It wasn't. This didn't have to happen this way.
Okay.
There was a There were mistakes they made.
All right. Well, maybe we'll get your actual review of it in next week's episode.
Yeah, I mean,
after you go see it, maybe it'll be better than you hope. I hope so.
Maybe.
You never know.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised.
I'm just happy I'm going to get home earlier than normal.
Well, listen, thanks to everybody on our chat. You guys are awesome. I'm really sorry. It does hurt me when I see so many questions in our chat that we can't answer. Like, I really wish we could stick around and answer them all. But we can't. But thank you guys. Everyone in chat, you guys are awesome. Thank you for live fact checking us like you always do, so we don't have to do a weird, like, here's where we messed up segment in every episode. Thanks for all that. Thanks for showing up live, period. You guys make the show better with your questions and your comments that we weave into the show. Thank you very much. If you listen to this show on any of the podcast services or you're watching it on YouTube and you want to support us, head to patreon.com/SIFTD. That's SIFTD. For $4 a month, you get all our content early, and unlike other Patreons, you really get it early. GameFace 4 days early, Pactor Factor a week early, everything else at least 3 days early. There's really value in being a patron with us. Everyone else has to wait quite a while to get our content for free on YouTube or the podcast services. And if you're listening to it on the podcast services and you can't afford to contribute, you don't want to, and you still want to help, just review the show. Review the show on the podcast service right now. It would be a huge help for us. It makes a big difference. It gets new people tuned into the show. So thanks, everybody in the chat. You guys are great. Thanks to all our patrons. Thanks to our sponsors, LS Cream and SoundWizardry.com. We love all you guys. We'll see you next Tuesday. GameFace is up and out.